Okay, so what was the topic you wanted to chat about?
Well, the topic is I just because you said you couldn't explain it over Twitter. So I just would like you to try to explain how you see it as a victory and deserving of mandates for approximately 81% of the population to make up approximately 80% of the hospitalization and death. So you said that there's something I'm not seeing in the data.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to explain that to me. What
So
what am I not seeing in the data? Now I understand when you have a disproportionate amount of the unvaccinated making up hospitalization and deaths. So when at certain points where they were seeing as high as 50%, they said, sorry, to be accurate, say 49%, and they said, well, actually, because of the fact that that's only 19 to 20% of the population, that's a disproportionate number. I understand all that. I'm a construction worker, but I have a very good grasp of math. So I understand that, and I understand base rate fallacy, etc. Now that the numbers have become proportional, I don't know, I don't understand how you can propose to make that argument. Not only that, and I'm going to go by the Alberta stats.
yep.
So because those are the ones I understand, those are the ones that I'm monitoring. I'm not monitoring the rest of the country
Yeah, no worries.
as much, as much. So I need you to explain also how 50% of the boosted are making up approximately 70% of those vaccinated numbers. Now, I will explain to you that my stance is and how it's always been that the vaccine has benefits for immunocompromised, it has benefits for the older populations. It showed benefits around the world for the older populations. My issue stems from mandates, as always, because as you explicitly mentioned in the charter, well, that's part of the charter. You cannot inject people with foreign substances without essentially informed consent, and that's what we're getting here. So I need you to explain to me what I'm missing in those numbers.
Yeah, so we'll stick to the numbers. We'll kind of we might talk about you know, is getting the vaccine a choice or not later, but since you only probably have an hour. Anyways, so with the numbers, yeah, so I guess you do understand that it is a representation of just the population. So when 80% of your population is vaccinated, and you grab, and there's 1,000 people in a hospital, you would probably see that 80% of those people will have a vaccination, because that's how like the representation works. So the big thing that we're trying to avoid with vaccine status or like anything like that, or the numbers that we're trying to avoid, is that um, I don't know if you're looking at my stream or not, but I'll just bring it up. If you're looking at a chart and you have and there's a red line that we don't want to hit, where that's our maximum capacity at a hospital before any vaccines. Which actually I could just share this. Oh no, you're on your phone. I don't know if you could see it. I don't want to lag your phone out. So
No, it's okay. I can't. I'm not looking at any visuals, but
yeah, so then I'll try to just describe it. So you have a chart, and there's a red line kind of in the middle, or wherever you want to put it, and that's our hospital capacity. So before any vaccines come out, we have a massive increase in hospitalizations due to COVID, and it's far exceeding the maximum capacity of hospitals. That's where our hospitals get overrun. So
okay.
then,
Well, I'm going to stop you right there because if you want to look at hospital capacity as the metric, then our hospitals have been running over capacity for nigh on about 20 years. I can bring up multiple news articles every single year about hospitals running over capacity.
well,
So
hospitals have
to
a general
me,
number.
using that to justify mandates is, in my opinion, irresponsible because the hospitals have been running over capacity for decades in Canada. That is the trade-off of a rationed healthcare system, single payer healthcare. The trade off is that you're going to have to run at or above capacity simply because that's the only way that it becomes in any way cost efficient.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
you just have
that doesn't exclude my point. My point is that when we have a pandemic that hits, that capacity is gonna that capacity is gonna get far pushed out because you have a bunch of people now have COVID that need to get in the hospitals, and they're running at that close to if not at capacity, because that's
as
just
they've done in every respiratory virus season for the last 20 years.
well, because it's already like planned out to be that way. They have estimates on like what the capacity will be because we have a seasonal flu that comes through, and they know, okay, when the seasonal flu comes by, there's going to be about 1 to 2K more people in this hospital or whatever the heck, however big your hospital is. There's going to be maybe 10% more people in here because of the flu, or 20% or whatever that number is. They've got that factored in. But when a pandemic appears out of nowhere, we don't have that extra space.
It didn't appear out of nowhere, but fair enough. Continue.
It
did not appear out of nowhere. It did not appear out of nowhere. There's
before
documentation
2019,
documentation that shows it in Italy as early as September of 2019. But go ahead. I'm not going to get into that.
Okay,
but go ahead.
For all intents and purposes, it came out of nowhere. I don't think we have, if given from when Italy started seeing when hospitals were getting overrun to when Canada, I don't think we had enough time to update all of our hospitals in that time frame.
We knew in China in December of 2019 that there was something happening, and they downplayed it. And they said, come out to Chinatown, come out, and we don't want to be racist. We don't want to be xenophobic. They actually brought identity politics into a mass pandemic. Okay, if you want to call it
sure, but at the same time, you have Trump saying there's only 50. Sure, but at the same time, you have the president of the United States saying there's only 15 people in America having it. We don't need to worry about it. It'll be gone next week. So
bullshit. That's just incorrect, though. That's incorrect. Donald Trump was one of the first to shut down and to bar travel, and they called it racist.
Yeah, I'm just saying. My only point is that even if there was downplaying, that doesn't stop anything about mandates.
When Donald Trump barred travel, Justin Trudeau said, "Well, let's not be too hasty. Let's not be."
But this has nothing to do with my point. I don't know why we're on this. For all intents and purposes,
because you're inaccurate. He said we only have 15 cases in the States. But go ahead.
Yeah, in the States, that's called downplaying it. I'm just making the point that even if it's true that we downplayed it, you made it a weird political issue about who was downplaying it. So I just mentioned that also Donald Trump downplayed it.
No, you did.
No, you did. You brought up people saying that we can't be racist. We made it a political. They made it a race issue. You're the one who brought that up first.
President, can you let me finish? You said the president said that we don't need to worry about it. The president downplayed it because we only have 15 cases. So why would you specifically use the president of the United States to downplay the situation when Donald Trump actually started ramping it up? It was our prime minister that downplayed it. So why would you use Donald Trump then? Why would you use the president of the United States as the one who downplayed it? In my
I'm just
opinion,
saying that everyone.
If you're going to aggregate the data and say that one person downplayed it, in my opinion, the one that downplayed it was the one that waited an additional at least 2 to 3 months before shutting down travel. And you could even argue that we never did.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird place for you to go because you're against these mandates anyways.
It's not a weird place for me to go. You're the one who specifically said, now, you
brought up people downplaying stuff, and you brought a weird twist to it about race or whatever. You're saying, we can't be racist to Chinese people. I know where that goes. That goes to the Democratic Party in the United States, who was saying some stuff like that, and Justin Trudeau and stuff like that. But I'm just bringing up that on the opposite side of the spectrum, people like Donald Trump also downplayed it. It's just because no one wants to deal with. My point is that no one wants to deal with a pandemic, so we're going to ignore it until it's too late, because that's just how society works.
I recommend that you say government officials. If you had said government officials, we wouldn't be here right now. If you had just said
because I said Donald Trump, the most powerful human being in the whole world, does he not hold the most amount of influence out of anyone when he says stuff like that? Do you not think that Donald Trump saying that influences us?
Shut it down first. But he shut it down first.
I know, but I'm mentioning that you talked about downplaying, and if you have you talked about downplaying, and then you made a weird political bend towards people are saying this and this, and we know where that goes.
No. You did because you brought up a specific government official.
And you brought up specific talking points that you know where they go, and they lean to one party over the other.
I don't care about party. Party means nothing.
Okay, so then let's go off this, and we can go back to the 80% point. We're already super far away from this because you decided to bring in some weird political talking points about downplaying the virus, and you have a weird thing about it not coming out of nowhere.
If you can come out and say that government officials downplayed it, then we can move on.
That's my whole point. Donald Trump is a government official, is he not?
Government officials. Why did you specifically say the president of the United States said that there's only 15 cases in the States?
Because that's what he said, and that had massive influence on people's opinion on how this virus. That's a great starting point for people going, this is not a big deal, because they heard it out of the president of the United States.
And where was he getting his news from? It was the
Okay,
news
this is
agencies
okay. We're way off the
themselves.
point now that you're gonna go into
We're
conspiracy
not
land
way
about
off the
like
point, but
the
you go
news and
ahead.
stuff
You
like
go
that.
ahead. Find
When he sits there and he sits, he's self-admitted to watching Fox News all day long. So yeah, I wonder where he got his news from.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. He gets his news from Fox News, but he also trusted Dr. Anthony Fauci, who I'm pretty sure is not a Fox News watcher. Now, we can move on if you amend it and say, well, listen, government
It's not an
officials,
amendment because Donald Trump is a government official. But sure, I could simplify and
then
just say
why
government
did
officials
you,
said this.
then why won't you admit that government officials
I did
downplayed
admit
the
it by
virus
saying
all
that
over
Donald
the
Trump,
world?
as a government official, said that, as long with everyone else. I'm just mentioning that everyone downplayed it because no one wants to deal with a pandemic.
No. You're playing a trick. You're playing a trick.
You played the trick first. You mentioned
we
people saying, "Well, we
No, no, I'm
downplayed it by
not playing any
mentioning
trick.
that we can't be racist towards Chinese people. Everyone go to Chinatown, blah blah. We can't be racist." That was your political take at the start. You
Yes,
could have
I
just stopped
understand,
with
because it's
saying we
accurate.
downplayed it. You
But
could have
it's
just said
accurate.
we downplayed it
But
and
it's
ended
accurate.
there.
No, but it's accurate though.
And what's accurate is Donald Trump said there was no big deal. That's also accurate.
Then why won't you say Donald Trump at the same time?
Because that's besides the point of downplaying it. We can move on from a different thing to who did what first, but that has nothing to do. We can get into that point after because that's where mandates come in.
No. We need to be precise, and we need to define things properly. So at the time, Donald Trump, as well as every world leader, including Xi Jinping, downplayed this and said it was no big deal.
Yeah.
Will you admit to that?
I already did. Yes, that was my whole point.
Then let's move forward.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, so
let's move forward.
We have a line here that's our maximum healthcare capacity, and when a virus comes in that's seemingly out of nowhere and we downplayed it, that we don't have the capacity anymore. It's going to go past that capacity because there's a much more people coming into the system that need spaces in hospitals, and we don't have space
based on projections. Yes, based on projections, not based on real world data at that point yet, but based on projections. Yes.
Well, when there's a flood of way more people into hospitals and they literally hit maximum capacity plus some,
based
people
on
line out at the door. No.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Expand on what you mean by based on projections.
Because it was computer models that told us how many infections that we were going to get. Now, I'm not even going to get into the fact that they were so wildly wrong as to shake confidence in any computer projected models moving forward.
To be fair, the major projection that everyone saw was the 2 million deaths. Is that what you're going to talk about with being inaccurate?
In Canada, yeah.
Well, that wasn't in Canada. That was in the United States. That was, I'm pretty sure, like Fauci and his crew made that prediction, and that was if we did nothing, and we did a bunch of stuff, and we still hit 1 million deaths. So
1 million deaths over 3 years. They were calling for 2 million deaths in the first year.
Yeah, without doing anything. Yeah.
Yeah. First
we did a bunch of stuff, and we expanded that to 3 years at 1 million. That's.
Yeah. Do you know how many people died of diabetes in that time?
That's irrelevant to COVID deaths, but
it's not irrelevant because what we're doing is risk calculation. We could
talk about risk calculation later. We're talking about.
But carry on. Yeah, we can go ahead and talk about it later. I'm still trying to get to the point. I see now. If you want to go down that road, I don't see how projected deaths. I don't see how hospital capacity in any way, shape, or form explains away the fact that, as the CDC has said, the unvaccinated and the vaccinated are currently at the same spot. They've admitted it. So, but carry on.
You'll need to send me that on what that means by they're at the same spot. But
that because what they said specifically was that in terms of public health, we should view the vaccinated and the unvaccinated in the same light.
Okay, again, I need you to send me that because I don't know what that means, but sure.
That's the CDC. Well, basically,
I know, but what does in the same light mean? What does that like? What does that all pertain? Just you'll need to send me it because now that's a whole different subject. We can get to that later.
In terms of risk stratification, in terms of public health, they are at the same point.
Okay, sure. Let's say I even agree to that. That doesn't matter about if anything, that means we should bring back mandates. To be fair, but we'll get to that in a second because I haven't even explained why mandates are important in the first place.
No, that makes absolutely no sense. No, you don't get to mandate a vaccine. Have 80%.
No, I'm talking about stay-at-home mandates. I'm not talking about vaccine mandates. I'm talking about the stay-at-home mandates and like we've never had a vaccine mandate.
Listen. Oh, pardon me. Yes, we did.
Well,
You
besides
can
government
try. No,
officials, which
you
they
can
can, so
try.
besides government
You
officials,
can
that
try.
was a vaccine mandate that the federal government can
You
make on
can
their
try.
own officials, which is
You
true, but
can
no
try.
private businesses were mandating vaccines.
No,
Well,
no
sorry,
job.
private businesses
That's
may,
the
but they may
mandate.
not, they weren't forced to by the government to. Private
No
businesses can
jab,
choose if they want to mandate or
no
not.
job. Yeah,
Huh?
but they forced the businesses to
No, but they
mandate
didn't
the
because
vaccine.
all of my
Yeah,
any place I
they
work and
did.
all the areas I've nobody has a vaccine mandate besides the hospitals, which obviously have a different standard for their
That's
workers.
just false. It's
That's not
false.
false. I could walk to any business in my entire city and all across Canada and ask them, "Did you need to vaccinate your workers?" And besides the people who have different standards of work, like nurses, they'll say no. We never had a vaccine mandate. They might have imposed it themselves, right? Some private businesses can choose to have a vaccine mandate if they wanted to, but that's their prerogative.
No, listen. Okay. Now, could they force vaccinate their now? Okay, we're playing semantics as to whether or not they had a vaccine mandated. Okay, let's just call it coercion. Fine. So
Sure.
they had massive coercion campaigns. I think we can agree on that.
I guess
I
I'm
think we can
curious on how
agree
you're
on.
defining coercion, but sure.
Uh, let's see. No jab, no job. You can't go into the hospital to visit your sick and dying relatives. You
Sure.
can't go into the hospital to watch your kids being born. You can't go into the hospital. It doesn't matter how many fucking masks that you wear, that you can't go into the hospital to watch your child being born. Are you going to, with a straight face, tell me that that's not coercion?
No. I was just curious on how you're defining it. That sounds like
That's
coercion. Yeah, sure. But
Thank you. Okay, then we can move on.
it's a thing that you put in because we're in a
We can move on. We
extraordinary
can move on. Yeah.
circumstance. But yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate you admitting that. I appreciate that,
sure. Okay.
and I appreciate us agreeing on that. So let's go ahead and move on. So we're talking about the red line, and I understand the red line, that it determines hospital capacity, and I understand based on projections, based on computer models, that we were going to have a mass influx, and we were going to be too far over capacity. Therefore,
I know, but I don't know why you
um,
keep saying computer models. This actually happened. You do realize that, right?
but it didn't.
It
It
did
didn't
happen. We
happen
did
across
hit
Canada.
capacity. Yes, we did. What?
Oh yeah, I know we hit capacity as we do every year.
No. I mean, like we far surpassed it because there was a bunch of COVID patients that couldn't be like. There's a reason why.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's a
Surgeries were
very
postponed and
myopic
stuff like that.
view. That's a very myopic view, okay? Because what we did was mass testing, okay? And what we did was we had long-term care residents
Uh-huh.
who had no protections whatsoever filling up hospitals, okay?
So then you agree that we hit
But
over our capacity because of COVID.
yes, we did.
Okay.
Well, I agree that we hit over our capacity because of mismanagement. It's medical mismanagement. That's my
Well,
stance. But we're playing semantics right now. The ultimate thing that we can agree on is that yes, hospitals, not all of them, but particularly in urban centers,
yeah, which is kind of
went
important. That's where most
over
people live.
capacity. That's fine. That they went over capacity. I'll agree to that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think the thing is my personal take is that they were kept there longer than they needed to be. But
Okay,
that
that's
doesn't change
besides
the
the point
fact that
because
yes,
we can talk about
exactly.
that
That
after.
doesn't change the fact that the hospitals were being overrun. So
Yes. Okay.
move on.
So we agree that the hospital being overrun by COVID-19, and then we bring in stuff.
No, I'm saying that the hospitals are being overrun. I don't.
So a
The thing is,
pandemic
if
of
you're going to
COVID
say
comes in and
hold on.
hospitalizations increase, but that
Just
increase.
hold on. If we're going to, the thing is that if we're going to say that hospitals are being run because of COVID-19, we have to look at all of the factors. Okay. We have to look at why was there not, when we knew what was going on, why was there not a push to get people off the public system as quickly as possible? Why didn't we fast track surgeries? Why didn't we try to get people out of the hospital as quickly as possible? Why didn't we set up as we knew what was happening? You're saying that, oh, well, we didn't have time, and that's a fair enough stance to take. We didn't have time, whereas China built
China doesn't live in a democracy.
we'll
China
just
can
call
just
them
decide
10.
what they want to do whenever they want.
No, I understand that. Okay. But the thing is, people that tend to agree with you like to tout models that, because I'm not going to put you in that camp necessarily, but they like to tout China as being the model country for how they dealt with it because of zero
Okay,
COVID,
well, you're
which I
not
think is
talking to those people. You're
absolutely
talking to
no,
me.
but
I
just
don't
hold
care
on.
how China did
Yeah, no,
stuff.
I understand that. Just hold on. Which I think is batshit crazy. I think zero COVID is batshit crazy. I think that if you think that you're going to contain a pandemic, you're out of your mind. But what I'm trying to tell you is that we had the chance to build separate wards, to have separate areas
We did do
where we
pop-up
could
tents.
keep,
Yeah, we tried that. There was one in my
and it
city.
didn't, it was never used. They were never used. Much the same as,
You're just
much
wrong on
the
this. I don't know
same
how
as,
I could go get
they
you
were
stuff.
never used, much the same as New York, where they were never used, much the same as the ship that was brought in from the Navy ship that was brought in to house additional patients that was never used. We have mechanisms in at the time 2020. We have mechanisms in place. We have fail safes in place so that we can take COVID positive patients so that they don't infect everyone else and we can put them in a separate ward. We had that, but we failed to utilize it.
We did
Okay.
use them. I'm
So
just
now, but hold
you're aware
on,
we did
because
use
what
those
you're
COVID
saying, just,
zones.
just hold on a second, because what you're saying is hospitals were overrun because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
My stance is that we had mechanisms in place to prevent the hospitals from being overrun from COVID-19. And whether it's nefarious or whether it's just incompetence, which I believe the latter, we did not use those mechanisms.
We did use them.
We didn't.
You're
No, we didn't.
Yes, we did.
But we didn't.
But
Then
we
why
did.
were the hospitals being overrun with COVID-19
Well,
patients
because it
if
doesn't.
we were
Okay, so
able to
let's
have
say
pop-up tents to house COVID-19 positive patients? Why were they kept in the hospital?
it's because you have different areas. So you have your COVID ward, and then you have your additional COVID ward that's in your like pop-up tent, and both of those are
No.
overrun.
Why would you keep those in the same hospital with this
Because you could lock
disease
off a
that's
whole zone and
apparently
have it as a COVID ward, and you don't need to. Because so there's so let's say
that's inevitably going to infect other people?
no. Okay, I don't know if you don't understand how hospitals work. They can like quarantine off whole zones, and then nobody goes in those places.
Don't patronize me. Of course, I know how hospitals work.
So then, why did you totally misunderstand that? That's how that works.
If
That they
you're
could totally
bringing
quarantine off
an
zones.
airborne virus into the same building, I don't give a shit if they have.
Do you not think that hospitals are set up to deal with
an
quarantines?
Airborne virus, and they're bringing it under one roof. Therefore,
but they're set up to deal with quarantine situations.
Okay, well, do you know how labs work? Well, how the hell did this leak from a lab?
It didn't leak from a lab. That's the key. There's no evidence that that COVID-19 leaked from a lab. It most likely came from a wet market.
You're serious right now?
Yes, I've looked at all the evidence for that, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence that it came from anywhere else besides a wet market.
You actually believe that?
Yes, and you actually believe it came from a lab leak.
Then why haven't they found it in the wild?
They find COVID all the time in the wild.
Why have they not found?
Do you know what SARS-CoV? Like, do you remember what SARS is? SARS is another variant of COVID, but it's just a different strain. It's got a different code.
It came from the civet cat in a wet market in China. In China, I don't think it was Wuhan, but it came from a wet market in China. SARS-CoV-1. It spread in Toronto. Yeah, I know. My brother almost died from it. So
you understand that other COVID strains that are like different in their genome, which causes them to be named different things.
Yeah,
they can appear in wet markets, but somehow COVID-19 didn't.
But it didn't. They found SARS-CoV-1 in the wild. They found it. They have not found SARS-CoV-2, and they have gone after countless amounts of bats. They went searching for it in the wild. They could not find it.
Wait, actually, this doesn't even matter. This doesn't mean it came from a lab, though. You have to prove that it came from a lab. If they haven't found it in the wild yet, it just means that it's still out there.
You have to prove that it didn't.
You have to prove that it did come from a lab. That's how.
But they were studying bat coronaviruses in the level 4 lab in Wuhan, China.
Okay, wait. If they were studying the viruses, that means they found it in the wild, didn't they? Where did they find it from?
No, they didn't.
Or are you? You're on the conspiracy that they fabricated it and this is a man-made disease.
They were doing gain-of-function research. The vaccine is based on a computer-generated genome. It's computer-generated.
Yeah, because COVID exists. SARS-CoV exists. That's what the computer data is off of. So they can make a bunch of different strains on potential future versions.
I never said it didn't. Okay. They're doing gain-of-function research, which is absolutely insane. Okay. First of all, that's insane. Second of all, they have never found SARS-CoV-2 in the wild.
This guy just keeps going on.
They have never found it. They didn't find it in
That
any
doesn't
of
mean
the
it's
wetlands.
not out there.
Then where is it?
It's probably still out in the wild. They just haven't found it yet. Did you know that
Really?
they also discover new species of animals and totally different
Yeah.
phylums of animals every single year? It's really
I
hard
know
to
that.
find shit in the wild. Yeah.
Well, when you have the entire world trying to find this in the wild, you're telling me that they can develop a vaccine in under 9 months to administer to 7 billion people, but they
I think the
can't seem to
vaccine was
find
taken
this
a little bit
virus in
higher
the wild?
priority than finding the animal, but
Oh, really? Because the
well,
vaccine is far more effective if you can use an attenuated virus. It's
yeah, I
far
know, but
more
we got a
effective.
vaccine out that didn't
No,
need
no,
that.
no,
I'm
no,
just
no, no,
saying
no,
that
no.
you could push
It's
towards you
far
could look
more
for the animal, but if
effective
they haven't, I know.
as an
Anyway, this is
attenuated
besides the point because
virus.
if they still
And
haven't found the animal, that doesn't mean it came from a
it's
lab.
not beside the point.
It is besides the
But
point
it's
because
not. It's not
the amount of
beside the
effort
point.
that goes towards something doesn't mean that you will find it. You have a higher chance of finding it, but it doesn't mean you will find it.
Check
And
the
just because
emails,
you
man.
didn't find it doesn't mean that
Just
it
check
came
the
from a
emails.
lab.
Check the emails. Like I can't believe that. We it's going to be difficult for us to move on if you're not even willing to entertain the fact that it came from a lab.
Because it didn't.
It's
Because
gonna
everything
be
I've looked at shows that it never came from a lab,
That's nice.
and there's no evidence that it
Everything.
came from a lab.
Okay.
And just because you
if we're
haven't
gonna
found it in the wild doesn't mean it didn't come from the wild.
Well, if we're going to play that game, then everything I've looked at shows the vaccine to be more dangerous for men aged 40 or under than catching COVID-19. Everything I've looked at. So if you want to play that game,
I know,
we
but
can play that
you
game.
can
That's
throw
fine.
those at me. I can go find these things, and I could chuck you everything I want about like the wet market
That's
stuff.
nice, and
There's nothing about it.
I can easily find you all kinds of proof that it came from the lab. First of all, the fact that there's the level 4 lab within a few kilometers from
Yes, this is
the
all
wet
standard stuff.
market that it
Again,
was.
none of this has been proven to say that it comes from a lab. Just because there's a lab that studies COVID variants near it and all this stuff, that doesn't mean that it came from there.
But it did.
No, but it didn't. You have no proof of that. You haven't even demonstrated proof to that. You just said like, oh, we haven't found it in the wild, and there was a COVID lab nearby.
Okay, well now you know what? Because you're never going to believe it, no matter how much proof I show you. But I'd be happy to show you proof later on. But right now,
Sure. Can we
I'm not gonna
finally
go
get
in-
back to the stats stuff?
yeah. I still need you to explain to me how a directly proportionate representation of vaccinated are making up hospitalizations and deaths in the hospital. I'm just going to need you to go ahead there. And I
Okay,
don't
so
understand.
on that point, it's
but,
just
but
a
hold on. But I don't understand how hospital capacity has anything to do with that. We're not talking about why did they administer the vaccine. If you want to talk about why they administered the vaccine, well, then your point is relevant. But what I want to know, because I want to get to a base rate. My base rate is, how can you look at the numbers and tell me with a straight face that that's considered a success?
Yeah, so here it goes, okay? So the percentage ratio of people who are in the hospital doesn't really matter to what you're asking me. What's important is
But
of the
it
total
does.
of the total
No, but it
cases,
does.
of the total cases,
Yeah.
is that above the red line that we distinguish, or is it below the red line? And where is it? So before, when this all started, that the hospitalizations shot up like a motherfucker. They were super high. And now, because of all our mandates and because of vaccines, we've lowered that line to be closer to what we want. That's the success story, is that it's not perfect because we're still having spikes and stuff like that, of course. So that's where the question of do we need more mandates or not comes in. But we're not answering that. But the success comes
You're
from we had a
deviating.
fuck ton of
You're
hospitalizations, and then we started to crater them as we brought in mandates and as we brought in vaccines. Now the level's at a better level where there are not as many hospitalizations as there was before because of things like vaccines. So just because 80% of people in a hospital are also vaccinated, that's just the representation. That's just representation. 80% of the population is vaccinated.
No. Yeah, well, exactly. It's directly proportional.
Yeah, but how many people are in the hospitals now? Far less than there was before.
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. That's the whole point of mandates.
No,
Is to lower that number of hospitalizations.
I didn't
Before it
ask
was
you
really
about,
high
we can
and
get
crazy.
into that. We can get into that after if we want, but that's not what I was asking you.
That is directly what you asked me, but sure, ask it
No.
again. Yes,
No,
you asked me
then-
how does that a success, and I told you it's a success because the ratio that you're talking about, the representation doesn't matter. It's about the total numbers.
But you have to take into account the fact that currently, today, that there are a directly proportional amount of unvaccinated in the hospital to their population.
Yeah.
They're the twice vaccinated, so the ones with the full course, are directly proportional. However, of that group, the thrice vaccinated are disproportionately represented. Approximately 50% of the population is making up approximately 70% of the hospitalizations and deaths.
Okay, so that's a more that's a disrepresentation. I don't know where you got that number from, but
that's directly from the Alberta numbers in May of 2022. So I can find them on the Substack here.
Okay, so that's my favorite.
April or May of 2022. There was one actually in May, either April or May, where the hospitalizations and deaths were actually approximately 99% in the vaccinated. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm going by averages.
And this guy at the same time. You can just chill out, bro. So can you? Is there a? I don't know. Again, like how would I search that?
Yeah. Here. Thought I had it saved to my pocket. I didn't.
Okay, well, I found a Reuters on fact check. Alberta government data shows unvaccinated individuals higher rates of hospitalization and death.
I don't want to talk about Reuters, and not because you think I'm biased, because the CEO of Reuters sits on the board of Pfizer. If you think if you don't think that's a conflict of interest, then I think you need to look up what conflict of interest is. So,
okay.
I'm going by the numbers here. Said, I mean, we're not going to get into. There's certain things that you will never accept, and that's why I'm just kind of not. I'm just going by the actual.
I mean, I can say the same
numbers.
with you, but you won't accept from Reuters. But that's okay.
I won't accept from Reuters, because it's a conflict of interest. If you want to show me,
I mean, again, that's just a misunderstanding of how publications work. But sure.
No, it's not a misunderstanding of how publications work.
Really
not. Yeah. No, it's not. I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's no different than if I came out and said that Fox News said Trump was great. You're going to say, well, of course they did. Well, either you trust all.
But that's an opinion piece. Well, wait, that's an opinion piece. So yeah, of course they can say whatever they want. Whatever's on Reuters here that I'm looking at isn't an opinion piece.
I'm oversimplifying.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say.
No, I don't know what you're trying to say. The Reuters thing that I'm looking at is a.
If Fox News said that Trump was great, if Fox News represented some numbers from the Trump administration, you would immediately dismiss them and say, well, of course they're going to paint Trump in a favorable light.
Now, if the numbers are accurate, the numbers are accurate. Trump, they can paint Trump in a positive light all they want. That's their bias, sure. But if this fact check is showing against what you're saying, the facts in it are probably correct, and they might have there might be an opinion piece at the bottom saying like, oh, this verdict might be biased. Misleading. Data from government of Alberta shows that unvaccinated individuals have higher rates of hospitalization than deaths. So that's misleading. That's probably a fact based on like how publications go. Like
So here we have. Okay,
like
so actually, here we
when
go.
just to, on the
The
Fox
no,
News
I
thing
don't.
quickly, on the Fox News
No,
quickly,
no.
if
Go ahead.
Donald Trump says like a certain thing, and then or actually no, the best example would be like uh Fox News during the election was saying like, oh, Trump's gonna win, Trump's gonna win, Trump's gonna win. They can say that all they want. They're not being inaccurate when Trump eventually loses Arizona, and Fox News is the first one to call it. That's not like them being like wrong. That's just the opinion people saying whatever they want because they can, because that's like their prerogative to. But the person running the data who calls Arizona for the Democrats, he can't say no. Arizona's going to go to Trump because the numbers say so. No, the numbers show that Arizona would go to Biden.
Yeah, and yeah, but understand something that I don't outright trust any news sources because I
I
mean,
can
what I
tell.
could tell you. Yeah, well, exactly. Because, well, I mean, listen, I get a lot of my news from Tim Pool. What do you think about that?
That's pretty inaccurate, but sure, he has no.
Okay. Okay. And Tim Pool is NewsGuard certified. Same as
Okay.
Reuters, same as Associated Press. Well, no,
Yeah,
you
but
don't.
I
No,
know,
just
but
don't just dismiss it.
Tim Pool has no way of like getting checks and balances thrown his way. Whereas if
Are you
Reuters does
being?
something horribly wrong,
Do you
most people
know how
probably get
difficult
fired
it is?
from it.
Okay, well, listen. Okay, it's my turn to condescend to you. Do you know how difficult it is to get NewsGuard certified? Look it up. Do you know
I'm
how
sure it's
difficult it
really
is?
hard. I'm just saying that there's no way that Tim Pool
Okay,
has
so
any
you're
kind of
saying that he
checks
has
on
no
himself.
checks and balances, yet a governing body that only recognizes quite literally a handful of news outlets recognizes him as NewsGuard certified, as the same as Reuters, the same as Associated Press, and you're going to say that he has no checks and balances. That's a completely biased opinion on your
That's
part. I'm
not.
sorry.
It's it's just a
It
misunderstanding of
is. No,
of
it
how
is not
like.
a misunderstanding. It is. It is. It's biased opinion. Your biased opinion is that because Tim Pool is independent media,
So
that
wait,
he's
okay,
not to
wait.
be.
So what do you think of
No,
Tim
no,
Pool
listen,
constantly
listen.
saying that the Civil War's coming? Is that not inaccurate? What is that to you? And what is a
It's not
NewsGuard? What does
inaccurate.
NewsGuard like mean to you as well?
No, listen, because you're conflating Tim Pool's opinion show with his news certification. Now, his news certification comes from his daily aggregation of the news. He has a daily show that he does without talking to other
Okay,
people.
wait. If
It's
he's
just
just
him.
reporting on the news, then yeah, that's not a problem.
But he
The problem with him
I
is when he
know.
calls out. Sorry, go ahead.
Understand something. That when he says America is heading towards civil war, that's not him reporting the news.
Yeah, I know,
That's
but
his opinion
that's my biggest issue with
based.
him. If he's
That's
just
his
randomly reporting on
opinion.
other people's news, that's probably
That's
fine
his
because he's probably
opinion
getting it from like
based.
CBC or CNN or whatever, or Fox
He's
News.
getting it from everywhere.
Yeah, but
That's
okay,
what I'm
what does
trying to.
everywhere mean? We would need to go into specifics on this at this point. But what is NewsGuard? What is like a NewsGuard? What is it? Verification? What does that mean?
NewsGuard certification just means that when you report the news, they look into it. They look at where your numbers are coming from, where your information is coming from, where your interviews are coming from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the thing is, what NewsGuard was established to do was to essentially allow people to trust that news source. So it's NewsGuard certification in the sense that it's constantly and forever being fact checked. Now, Tim Pool is actually trying to set up his own fact checking organization. Fact checkers have been proven and admitted to being politically biased. They've admitted to it. The fact checkers, Politico, etc., the fact checkers that work for Facebook have admitted to being political activists. It's on tape. It's on record. But we're deviating from the point, and I found the screenshot that we sent. So Tim Pool is NewsGuard certified. Whether or not you want to like his news or not, he's NewsGuard certified. Steven Crowder posts all of his sources, open sources, so that
No, he
anybody
doesn't.
that
He
says
posts.
that
Wait,
he
no, no,
is,
no. He doesn't. You know he doesn't. He posts to his
yes, he
website,
does.
and then his website leads to maybe some of
Not maybe
his
some.
sources. Yes, I've
His
gone through his videos. Sometimes he
references,
doesn't have them posted, and
his
then sometimes he just has a
references are
headline in his
publicly
thing.
his references are publicly available and you can follow the source. Now, yes, you go to the website at louderrecruiter.com and it goes to the source. And now you can disagree with the source. That's
I
fine.
just want you to know that
That's
some of
fine.
his sources are literally his own website posting a like piece on it. Just an FYI.
Yeah, I've gone there and I've seen the sources. I've seen where they come from.
Yeah,
Now,
and if
what
you
I'm
think that
saying is,
Steven Crowder posting an opinion, a post about the source that he's like himself. So like he's like, oh, here's the source, and he links it in the thing, and then you have to click on his website, and then his website brings you to like his Pastebin, whatever, and then you click on a source in there, and it's just another article from his website. I don't know if that's really a good source, but
Well, that's okay. Well, then we're having a vastly different experience going through his sources. But anyways, that's besides the point because I don't take all of my news from any one source. That's the whole fucking point.
okay.
Okay, so I'm not just gonna outright think that CNN is lying, although they've been caught lying too many times to count on pieces that are not opinion. Okay,
Sure. And
so
then
when
they usually, you
they
know what usually happens there? Anyone who's caught lying on there usually gets fired.
really,
Yes. You can go and see it. They're a publicly traded thing or whatever. You could go see who's got fired. Yeah. Like there was something, oh fuck, what was it? There's a most recent thing I think they got wrong with Donald Trump, and everyone involved with that story got fired.
well, listen, whatever. Like when
Okay.
you look at a news article, and the first thing I do is look and see opinion. Okay, to see if it's an opinion piece.
Yeah.
When you look at a news article from any one fucking source, and they say election denier Carrie Lake, right there, that's no longer news. That's opinion.
Okay.
That's opinion.
Even though,
No,
just
it
an
is.
FYI,
You can
she
laugh.
just made an announcement
Laugh.
saying that she's denying her current election and is looking into it. Just an FYI.
Yeah, I know she's looking into it because there was active voter suppression, and there's
Yeah,
proof.
yeah, but I'm in it. But does that make so then is the
No,
title
that's
of election denier not factual? Because she's currently denying
she's not
an
an election denier. That's a very broad, very.
I know, but she's
broad.
currently declining. She's denying
She's
the current election.
denying. She is challenging the results of an election, so she's an
Yeah, because
election
she's denying the
challenger.
outcome of it. That's what
That's
that means.
no. She's not denying the outcome. She is challenging the results. It's a
Yeah,
very.
because she denies the outcome. That's how you have to do that. That's like step one is you have to deny the outcome to be able to challenge it.
When there is active voter suppression, then yes. I
Okay, so
think
you
she's
agree that
well
she is
within
denying
right.
it, though. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Well, then Stacey Abrams denied her election results for 4 years.
Yeah,
Hillary
probably.
Clinton,
Yeah,
Hillary Clinton
kind of
still
a dumbass.
denies the election results from 2016. So, do they say election? It's okay. First of all, here's my stance. It's not whether we have laws. It's not whether we have opinions. It's whether they are applied equally. And if you think that they're being applied equally to Carrie Lake and to Hillary Clinton, I'm sorry, but
Hillary
I've
Clinton
got some-
denied the election. She conceded the election the next day.
doesn't matter.
That does matter. Yeah,
No,
it
it
really
doesn't.
does. She
No, it
conceded the
doesn't.
election the next day and didn't
Okay,
do
let's
anything
never
of what
did.
Carrie Lake is currently doing.
No, it doesn't matter. No.
It does matter. That's really important to
It
being a
does
denier
matter.
or not.
You're right. It does matter, and it matters that Hillary Clinton be called an election denier.
She's not. She conceded the next day.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, we're really far off
He
the point
called
now.
him an illegitimate. Yeah, she conceded. She called him an illegitimate president for 6 years.
That's not true. But
years.
anyway, we can move back
It is
onto.
fucking
You
true.
can
Come
move back
on,
onto
man.
COVID. We're
Listen,
really far off the
listen,
point
Matt,
here.
we're
She
not gonna get
conceded
very far
the
if we
election
exist.
the next day,
Listen.
and to this day, Donald Trump is crying about the 2016 election.
Listen, I don't care about he's crying about the 2020 election. If you want to be fair, so
Well, both
it
to be
doesn't
fair, but
matter. It does. No, you never cried about the 2016.
yes, he
Dude,
still
we're
cries
not gonna
about Hillary
get very
Clinton to
far
this
if we live
day.
in an
Yes,
alternate reality.
he's like, oh, this lady. What? Anyways, we're really far off
No,
the
we're
point.
not
We can
gonna
go back
get
to
very.
COVID.
No.
now.
Okay, well, go ahead. Go ahead. What did he say that's crying about the 2016 election?
Anytime he mentions Hillary Clinton, probably is probably him a little bit crying. about it.
Probably. So you came out with a statement that you believe to be factual. You came out with a statement that you believe to be factual, and then you say probably. We're not going to get very far.
Oh
if
my
you
fuck!
wanna-
Can we
if
just go
you're
back to
going
COVID, please?
exist.
I know you're. Yeah, I don't care anymore.
No,
We're
oh,
so far off.
Yes, we're going.
Oh,
Yes,
Trump
you need.
talking about. He still talks about the 2016 election. You do know that.
Of course.
Yeah,
He's
that's my
but
point when he
no,
says he's
but
crying about it. He could just
talking
move on
about
from it.
The 2016 election is not denying the election. It's so.
Wait.
Not
I just said he
him-
was crying about it. I didn't say he was denying it. He's denying the 2020
He's
election,
not
but
crying,
he's crying about the.
2016 election. He won. What the fuck would he have to cry about?
Okay, never mind. This
It
is so
should be
dumb.
pretty
He's
easy.
denying the 2020 election actively, and he cries about all the other stuff. Is my point. I'm
No, no,
pretty sure
okay,
he's
well,
talked about
listen.
how like the 2016 election there was like meddling, but they couldn't stop us or whatever because that's like the Russia gate shit.
Well, listen. I mean, listen. We
That's
can
what.
go back to COVID in a second here, but either way, you can't come out and say that Hillary Clinton is not an election denier based on the metrics
She
that they're using.
conceded the next
I
day.
don't care. She called him an illegitimate president for 6 years. Jimmy Carter called him an illegitimate president. Still calls him an illegitimate president. Stacey Abrams called him an illegitimate president.
Isn't that because he got impeached?
That's irrelevant.
No, that's kind of important.
No, you can call it important all you want. It's not relevant to whether or not they are denying his legitimacy.
No, it does
as
because
the
having an
duly-
impeached president
No, it
is like a
doesn't.
is like
No,
a
no,
sign that someone's
no.
illegitimate. Yeah.
no. They didn't. No, it doesn't. Impeachment does not make you illegitimate. By the law, it doesn't make you illegitimate, but that's
No,
irrelevant.
but you can use it as a term for somebody. If you're impeached as a president, usually you get like kicked off. But because the Senate
They
didn't do
are
it,
denying his legitimacy as the duly elected president of the United States. Same way that all these election deniers, when asked about Joe Biden, they say, yes, he was legally elected the president of the United States. All of them say the same thing. But if you ask, and they have, Hillary Clinton, when she appeared on The View, when she appeared on 60 Minutes, said that he was illegitimate.
yeah, because that has to do with the Russia
she
stuff.
No. Therefore, she is actively denying his legitimacy
No,
as the
she's
president.
mentioned. Wait. In that same interview you're talking about, she mentions that she doesn't think the vote tallies were manipulated. She's just talking about the Russia participants that helped him.
Yeah,
get
the
elected.
Russian participants that put in less money than the Daily Wire put in ads in a month.
No, okay. It doesn't matter about how much money they put in. They had like big, huge Twitter accounts and multiple like Russian bots, and they had huge Twitter accounts with like 100+ K followers that were verified that were actually just Russian agents.
Yeah, and you don't think that plays both ways?
We have evidence that it was playing towards the Republicans. Yeah.
And we have evidence that Zuckerberg, first of all, you look up Zuckerbucks, the amount of money that Mark Zuckerberg gave to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, there's a difference between donating and running what Russia did. I don't know if you can't see that. But
he runs a public social media.
Yeah, you need to show evidence that public media platform is being heavily biased and changing the like potential votes.
The owner of the platform donated to the
yes,
other
anyone
party.
can donate to any party. That's donations. And you can donate to the DNC, and then that DNC money doesn't have to go.
Matt,
oh my God!
I didn't say what he did was illegal.
Yeah, but you need to show evidence that influences the election somehow. The election, like the counting of votes.
I need to show how $400 million influences an election.
Yes.
Oh my. Okay, we're gonna move on because we're living in two different realities.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, I don't even know if you agree with the Russia stuff or not. How that is much more than donations.
The Russians injected about $118,000.
Hey, the money doesn't matter with what they were doing.
Yeah, but what you're doing is what you're doing. First of all, Mark Zuckerberg admitted to the FBI coming into his office and forcing him to strongly recommending that he block the Hunter Biden laptop story. That Hunter Biden laptop story...
Wait. Do you know why the Hunter Biden laptop story was blocked? Wait, do you know why?
Why?
Because the data on the laptop was illegally acquired. So places like Twitter, that's why Twitter removed it, is because they have a policy that you can't post illegally obtained stuff.
It wasn't illegally.
It was illegally obtained. Yes, we're really off the point again.
It was dropped off at a repair shop.
Yeah, and repair shops, you can't access somebody's data and take their data off the computer and
becomes
post it to
your property.
No, it doesn't. No,
yes,
the data on the laptop does not become their property. You have the obligation to delete all of the data off that laptop. The laptop, the physical device, is your property. The data on that laptop is not your property.
First of all, your argument is moot because they didn't say it was illegally obtained. They said that it was Russian disinformation.
No. The reason why the Hunter Biden stuff, anything that was on that laptop, was suppressed online was because it was illegally obtained. and illegally posted because it
No,
wasn't his data.
it was Russian disinformation, is what they said.
Okay, but that's I don't know where you heard where they said that. That's Twitter's policy on it. Is that and Facebook's policy on it was that we're not going to post this because it's illegally obtained.
That's not what they said. What they said was that they didn't tell. That's not what they said to Zuckerberg when he went in. Like, did you not watch his interview on Rogan? So when they went in to talk to him, they didn't say, "Listen, this information was illegally obtained." They didn't say that. If that had been the case, then why didn't they tell him that? Why did they tell him that there was a lot of Russian disinformation going around as it pertains to the 2020 election? Therefore, we're asking that you not post it. And then when he did, that it was massively downplayed and essentially shadow banned. They didn't make the case that it was illegally obtained. They made the case that it was Russian disinformation. Why didn't they, if it was illegally obtained and if that was the argument for burying the laptop story, why then did they tell him that it was Russian disinformation? Why didn't they just say, "Listen, man, this information was illegally obtained, so we're going to have to ask you not to allow it onto your platform"?
Because
Why?
that's already part of their policy.
Why?
Wait, do you know those are two separate things, right? So people
It's
talking
not
about
two separate things.
wait, stop. The Hunter Biden files that were on the laptop that got posted online, those were already removed from Facebook or being removed from Facebook and Twitter because Facebook and Twitter have policies that you can't post illegally obtained shit because it gets them in trouble. Now, people talking about the Hunter Biden story, that might have been told to Zuckerberg to suppress those stuff because that was potentially having Russian interference pushed onto it to push the Hunter Biden story.
But that's not accurate.
It being Russian. Oh, wait, stop.
As per Mark Zuckerberg himself.
I know, but I'm just making sure that you're aware that like part of the reason why Hunter Biden's story was suppressed is because they had to delete and mute anyone who posted the data from the laptop. But people speaking about the Hunter Biden story is the different thing. You can talk about the Hunter Biden story all you want.
Oh, now, could you?
No,
really?
Stop. No, we're getting off on this. I'm just saying. If that's what was being suppressed, I'm just making sure that you're aware that that's like a different story than like the data being deleted. Now you have to prove that that's what happened. That Zuckerberg was told by government officials to suppress anyone talking about the Hunter Biden story because of. And then you would also have to prove that it wasn't like you have to prove that they were lying about the Russia interference stuff because I think they have a right to do that. We're so far away from COVID now, but. I think they have a right to tell.
No, we're far away from COVID. We're far away from COVID, but what we're doing is we're establishing the fact that everywhere that people get their news, okay, when people get their news from Facebook, nobody bats an eye, but suddenly I get my news from Tim Pool, who is NewsGuard certified, and all of a sudden, well, that's inaccurate.
Facebook
and you're basing that.
Hold
on, you're basing that on nothing. You're basing Tim Pool's inaccuracy on nothing.
I'm basing it on the fact that he made a prediction that there would be a Trump 49 state landslide, and it horribly flopped in front of his face.
There would be a Trump 49 state landslide?
Yeah. Do you not remember that prediction that Tim Pool made?
On his show or on the news?
On his show. I'm talking about his Tim Pool show.
That's
his inaccuracies. I don't care about his news place where he probably just copy pastes. He probably just copy pastes CNN
and
articles.
he makes predictions based on computer models.
Yeah,
remember
I know, but when I'm talking about him being dishonest, that's what I'm talking about.
That's not him being dishonest. That's him reporting the news as per the models.
So his models said a 90. Okay, then his models are horribly inaccurate. It seems, and you should probably not trust those.
So are the COVID
he's been wrong every single time.
That's fine. Okay, well then let's.
And that's still my point. Yeah, thanks.
Let's apply that metric equally. What? Let's apply that metric equally. So therefore, I don't think you should trust a single computer model as per COVID ever again.
No, because they've been proven to be accurate. Same with the model that showed Arizona would go to Biden from Fox News. Fox News can be trusted on who might win a state because they accurately report on who's leading the data from their models. That's why they called Arizona before anyone else did. It's because they have super accurate models. Everyone on the panel talking about it was actually really mad at this guy. I think people were calling for him to get fired, the guy who was doing the data collection, because he called Arizona really, really early. But he was totally bang on right. Arizona did go to Biden.
That's fine.
Yeah?
Doesn't matter. The fact that he called it so early is still suspect.
That's not suspect at all. He was totally right.
No. He had no way of knowing that he was
did
right
have any. He called it
that he had at the time. No, I'm sorry, but there's no way of knowing. With 3% of the vote counted that he called Arizona, there is no way that he could have
based
known
on his projections of the numbers. He called it and was right. I don't know if you like. This is how like anyone gets. Fuck, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, that's how you get people trusted. They just are right all the time, and then you can like trust their stuff. Because at this point, I don't know why you consume any media at all. Because anything you consume is can't be trusted off of your own words you're saying here. So I don't.
No,
I would just, if I was you, I would just disconnect from this world and live a happy life.
Do not misrepresent me. I said no one media organization should be trusted implicitly and completely. That's my stance, and that's always been my stance. I don't
wait. So if not one media outlet, wait. So then do you look at an aggregate of other media outlets?
Of course I do.
Okay, so then why do you why do you distrust so much COVID stuff? When the vast majority of places are posting about like basically my argument, my side. Let's just call it that, just to be simplest.
Yeah, I understand that all of the mainstream outlets are reporting one thing and one thing only.
No.
Whereas independent media...
Stop.
Hold on.
Vast majority of people are reporting on quote-unquote my side of the argument. Or the aisle.
Vast majority of mainstream media is reporting on your stance. Yes, yeah. I never denied that.
Okay.
Never denied that.
Just to be clear, I know you're saying mainstream media as if there's a distinction here. Just wait, to be clear, why do you have a distinction between mainstream media and like the rest of media? Like, I know you don't, like, you seriously distrust the mainstream media. And that's like the crux of our disagreement here, is that anything I say, I'll say it's coming from like a mainstream media source, and you're going to say, oh, that's wrong because it's coming from mainstream media.
I didn't say that it's wrong. I'm saying that I question it. But even in the act of questioning it,
but you're questioning it with other sources of media that have that don't have the same checks and balances that CNN does.
This is the thing, because according to mainstream outlets, I'm a COVID denier. Okay, so just because that
you're not talking to mainstream elements, but sure, I don't know what metric that's based on.
Because I deny the efficacy of the vaccines, I'm an anti-vaxxer. Because I question.
Yeah, because you're going against like the mainstream data on it. Yeah.
So what exactly. So
yeah, but all of the data, you just said that you follow an aggregate of news channels, but for some reason your aggregate is actually always the minority of news channels.
No, my aggregate is not my aggregate is the minority of the mainstream opinion. Yes, it is.
Yeah, but then why did you? So then you don't really look at an aggregate. You just kind of look at the opposite side, or like.
No, I do.
You just listen to whatever makes you feel better. Yeah.
It's not whatever makes me feel better.
Yes, because so far you've denied anything that comes from any mainstream news source that has a million checks and balances on like why their shit is more accurate than anyone else's. And
come on, you have in CNN
you're telling me that Tim Pool is more accurate than CNN, Fox News, all of the mainstream medias. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. There's no demonstration that Tim Pool has the same checks and balances. Tim Pool can't fire himself. And he can maybe do a correction, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen him ever make a correction on anything ever. He just says, oh, sorry, my prediction was wrong.
No, he does it all the time. So, I mean, if you actually watch the show, you would see, but that's irrelevant. What is relevant is the fact that, yes, they say, oh, well, the mainstream media issues corrections all the time. Yes, you're right. Yeah. They do issue corrections.
And they fire people.
They do. Hold on. Why didn't they do anything? They do issue corrections, okay? And they issue corrections weeks to months after, and they bury it on page 40, page 60, page 5, page 1. It's never on page 1. You'll never see.
Because the story's already gone, but you can go back to the story, and it'll say edited on this day.
That doesn't,
wait, actually, they'll also post a whole new article saying correction to the story if it's big enough.
Hold on.
You're just wrong. There's a fact check article here about the data you were showing me, just an FYI, but like...
But what data I was showing you? What fact check?
From the Alberta stuff, but you won't believe it because it's from Reuters. And even though I could find other ones that say the same thing, you're probably not going to believe any of them.
It's because they'll fact check it as false, but I want you to break down how the numbers are not what they say is false. The conclusion is what they say is false. I've looked at the fact check. I looked at the fact check articles that you sent me. I looked at the
But so
ones
what's
that
the
you
conclusion
posted
you're
on
gathering
Twitter.
from it then?
They do not discount, they do not refute the numbers. They refute the conclusion.
Okay, wait. So then let's just read. Even though you're not going to trust it, I'm just going to read through this routers one, and we can look at the other ones too. So
No, I want you to focus on the numbers. I don't care about Reuters fact check.
they're talking about the numbers. Yeah, they're talking about the numbers. The text in one post reads,
what are they
Alberta
saying?
COVID
Okay,
bombshell.
go ahead.
18.25% of people hospitalized with COVID are triple vaccinated. 82.6% of current cases are jabbed 1 to 3 times. What are the vaccine passports for again? Virtue signaling because it's the right thing to do, blah, blah, blah. Nah, it's purely for discrimination and the forced coercion of those who feel necessary and have, this is like the Twitter post that they're referring to. Discrimination for forced coercion of those who don't necessarily have an experimental drug shot into their bodies, whether for religious or medical reasons or because of natural immunity, which apparently doesn't exist for COVID. Every Albertan, every Canadian who does not stand against this idiocy is complicit in every evil thing that falls from the illegal discrimination of what now amounts to a minority group. The government of Alberta says on its website here, and that's just a link. Here is that as of January 13, 2022, 89.7% of residents over the age of 12 have received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine, and 85% of the residents over 12 are fully vaccinated. The webpage shown in the screenshot can be seen here. While the numbers in the screenshot appear accurate, this does not mean the vaccines have failed.
I never said that they failed.
Well, then what's your point? If the numbers are like that, then
my
point is that the vaccines work to lower the hospitalization numbers. You're just talking about a representation.
No. First of all, if you want to look at how much they lowered it, why do they not do numbers as of the rollout? Why do they include the non-vaccinated deaths from before the vaccine rollout? That's a little bit disingenuous, don't you think?
You can look at the whole table yourself. You can see the deaths
I
fall
understand.
off.
You have no idea how much I've looked at these tables because I'm not letting this go. So why then? You can laugh it off all you want. This is serious to me because I stand to lose my fucking business. Okay, so this is real serious to me. Now, I want to know why. There's a few things I want to know. First of all, how can you sit there and I don't want to single you out. How can one sit there and take unvaccinated deaths from pre-vaccine rollout and include them in the total? I want to know, if you want to see how many deaths, okay, and hospitalizations that the vaccine has prevented, I think what would be fair, and they'll never do this for obvious reasons, but I think what would be fair would be for you to take the numbers from the rollout. Why? Well, because how else can we do an apples to apples comparison without taking vaccinated and unvaccinated from the rollout? Using unvaccinated patients when, first of all, the disease was objectively far more deadly, according to every health expert, then how can you sit there and give me an apples to apples comparison when you're taking people from pre-vaccine rollout and lumping them in? I think that that's completely disingenuous. What I want to know is, how can you call it a success, not based on total, because that does not allow for confounding factors. Okay? Since March of 2020, we have developed several treatments, some of them on the emergency use authorization, such as monoclonal antibodies. We have developed several treatments since then, several forms of early treatment since then. So therefore, we of course have lowered hospitalizations and deaths in both. But you're only allowing the vaccine to be used in that metric. I want to use all metrics. So
wait, they use all metrics. That's what the number that we know that hospitalizations are down. Like,
yes, I know that.
Yeah.
Hospitalizations are down. But you're saying that that's due solely to the vaccine, therefore the vaccine.
No, I'm not saying it's solely due to it. It's also due to mandates and like
See, you refuse to allow the fact that early treatment has prevented people from being hospitalized. The
It's possible that
initial,
I don't see any much
it's
data on that, and
not
also there's like a
possible.
there's a
It's
there's a there's a
a
small like
fact.
well wait stop there's a small like um
It's a fact.
there's a small like bias here survivorship bias here going on where people who die from COVID you can't count them as stats again, so they're not going to appear as unvaccinated like deaths or
But yes, they will.
no they're
Unless
not.
they
If you grab a new poll from okay, so if a person dies in March,
a person dies in their house and
uh
they do an autopsy on them to see how they died, and that tissue tests positive for COVID-19. You're going to sit here and tell me, well, we don't know. We just put it as unknown. You're seriously.
wait say that
You
again.
look,
That's not my. I don't think that's my point. Say
so
that one
they
more time.
find, let's say you said that there's survivorship bias, which is it's complete horseshit, and I'll explain why. Because what you're saying is basic. Well, people that died can't tell us whether they were vaccinated or not. That's
No,
silly.
no, no. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that if you died in a prior study, you can't be used in the current data because you're dead.
But
So,
it's
so
but I
naturally, the
thought
so
no,
over
hold on.
time, people who are unvaccinated, that
But-
number will slowly shrink, in part because more people are getting vaccinated, and in part because people are dying.
no, hold on.
So, like,
Because is included in the data. Okay, that is included in the data. You're telling me that I don't understand statistics because I don't understand how they aggregate data. And what you're telling me though is that people who previously died who were unvaccinated are not included in current data.
it
You,
depends.
you
Obviously, it depends on what data are you looking at. Like, just so we're
I'm
clear,
looking
I'm
at
looking at stuff that's like from January 1st, 2021. I can't know if somebody from like this 300,000 people from January 1st, 2021, someone who died in 2019 or 2020, I should say, someone who died in 2020 won't appear on this data from 2021.
you're joking, right? They won't appear on the current data, but they will appear on the data that allows people to justify mandates in that, well, X amount of people have died
No,
who
the
are
mandates are no,
unvaccinated,
no, no.
and
The
X
mandates are
amount
brought
of
in or
people
brought
who
out
have
based on
died.
day-to-day data. So when that number starts spiking again, when hospitalizations start spiking again, if they do or if they don't, then we might have another conversation on mandates.
Sure, we can have a conversation on mandates with 81%, 85% of the population being vaccinated, which it's supposed to, according to you, it's supposed to, in a roundabout way, prevent infection because oh well, your symptoms are less, you're less likely to pass it on, you're et
That's like
cetera, et
that's like
cetera, et
the
cetera.
that's like the third that's like the third like bonus to vaccines. The main purpose of vaccines is to keep people out of the hospital or reduce their time in the hospital and reduce their symptoms.
Yeah, okay, that's the main purpose,
Yeah.
but
So
we're
when we're
not,
talking about hospitalizations, that's kind of important
of course it
for
is.
yeah.
Now, if you want to look at biases, people who are vaccinated are generally a lot more careful about their health. Yeah.
People who are vaccinated are arguably no, but
They're generally a lot more careful about their health. They're generally a lot more
probably
concerned
not.
for their
To
health.
be fair, I know just
You're-
and it's a more of a positive towards like a lot of unvaccinated people probably also like try to eat foods with no GMOs or like they probably hopefully they don't eat like fast foods and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I don't touch fast food. So
Yeah. So arguably, probably people who are unvaccinated might have a healthier lifestyle in terms of food because they're avoiding everything.
and it's showing to be equal to that of the vaccinated. You can't look at the modern numbers. You cannot look at the current numbers and determine any other outcome. And if we're talking about spikes, there was no spike in the summer in North America. There was no massive spikes in the summer of 2020. Okay, there were no massive spikes in the summer of 2020.
Wait, what?
However,
In the summer of
there
2020,
were
there was
no
no massive
massive
spikes. I mean, that was when
in
that like everything
summer.
was.
In
That's
summer.
isn't that when we had like the biggest lockdown? Isn't that when the whole fucking world shut down?
No, many states weren't. Florida was only locked down for about a month and a half. It was about
Yeah,
six
and
weeks that they were locked down.
that's like Florida, and then New York was
Yeah,
the New York had the biggest. That's when
and
like New York was like falling apart because they're like the hub of all world travel, unlike Florida,
you,
and like the
you,
biggest
you're
metropolitan place
they're the
on the planet,
hub of
basically.
all world travel, unlike Florida.
Yeah, a lot more people
Do you
travel
know how
to New York
do
than
you know how many
Florida. If
Cuban
the
immigrants? Do you know how many Cuban immigrants land in Florida every day? Do you know how many people
Far less
vacation
than
down?
people who travel to New York
Do
for
you know?
work and other
Do you know
things.
how many older population people who are objectively the ones most
Yes,
affected by
and we
COVID,
saw what happened to them later when COVID finally came to Florida. They all started fucking dying.
or COVID finally came to Florida?
Yeah, like after New York. New York was kind of the epicenter in the United States because it's New York. I don't know how you don't understand. Like
I do understand that.
everyone
I
flies
didn't.
to New York. That's how it got here. Is because everyone flies to New York.
But if you're gonna use that metric, first of all, because I said that fucking California was the hardest hit state, and you're
Yeah,
saying, well, I don't
in
understand.
part. Whoa, wait! I didn't say anything about California yet.
No, I understand that, but like I said, you're what we're doing here is we're trying to determine how 85% of the population makes up around 81 to 82% of the
Yeah, it's because it's a
hospitalizations.
representation. We've already been over this.
Yeah, we have. So how can you sit there and tell me that that justifies any intervention whatsoever in terms of vaccines
Because
when
because
it
that number
directly
you're stating is not
proportional?
important. That's just a representation. What's important is
It,
of the
it
people
is
in the hospital.
important.
Is it more or less than it was before vaccines?
Yeah, but you're
And we
not.
know it's less.
Yeah, but hold on. But you're not taking into account any other metric, only vaccination, and
We
that's
could look at other
dishonest.
metrics like mandates and stuff like that, and how did those affect
No,
hospitalizations? And
well,
those
why?
also lowered
Why? See,
hospitalizations
that's the thing. So here's the thing. Your thing is vaccination or mandates, and you're selectively refusing to look at any other metrics such as natural immunity, which is
we could look at natural immunity.
absolutely
I'm just talking about we're
determined.
talking about mandates or if they're good or
But
not, and how they're
well,
effective.
yeah, but
We know that
they're
natural immunity doesn't really work because you need to first get infected by COVID to get natural immunity, and then natural
but
immunity
yeah,
wanes off after time. And the biggest problem to COVID is the first time everyone got infected.
so here's the thing. When I argue towards natural immunity, you say, well, you have to get infected first. Well, what about all the people who got infected in 2020 before the vaccine rolled out?
Uh huh.
What you're saying to these people is that they must get vaccinated.
Yeah, because it helps them the second time around because that natural immunity
No,
wanes off.
it doesn't wane off.
It does wane off, just as the vaccines do.
No, it doesn't wane. The vaccines wane from 70 days.
Yeah,
We
and natural
saw
immunity wanes like just after that. It still wanes. The point is that it does wane.
no, hold on. It's false.
It does wane.
That's false.
That's not false. It does wane.
No,
You don't keep your antibodies forever. That's not how the human body works.
saying it wanes just don't patronize me. You're saying that it wanes just after the vaccinated immunity,
I'm
which
just
is
saying it
false.
wanes in general. We can look at when does it wane in.
First of all, the antibodies were shown to be robust, and reinfection was shown to be to not happen in 92% from the alpha.
When does that reinfection happen? What's that
92% in the alpha? Sorry, 97% in the alpha. Just hold on. 90. I already showed you the study, and you said it was bullshit. So
yeah.
97% in the alpha variant and 92% in the delta variant. That was in the Qatar study.
Yes.
Okay?
We could go over this now.
Hold on.
Christ. I'm just going to get it.
You didn't discount the study itself. What you said was it's inadmissible because they don't include the vaccinated, which is.
I never said it was inadmissible. I said that it was misleading potentially.
Is misleading. I don't care. Okay.
Those are two very different words. Inadmissible means that I don't think it's a study that you can use anywhere.
Okay,
misleading
no, hold on. Do you deny that you discounted the study due to the fact that the vaccinated were not included?
Of course.
Do you deny
because
that?
It's not on the chart. Yeah.
Do you deny that?
I don't deny it. But that I don't
perfect.
like the study because it doesn't have vaccinated.
So
I don't deny that. The study is worse because there's no vaccinated people on this list as well.
It's not worse in terms of the conclusion that they are trying to draw.
Okay, so then explain to me quickly what the conclusion they're trying to draw is.
Whether or not natural immunity is robust. Now, first of all, you look at natural immunity in terms of antibodies.
Wait. We're going to define these words slowly, okay? What does natural immunity being robust mean to you?
Natural immunity being robust means B cell and T cell immunity.
I know, but okay? in simple terms, in simple terms, you just mean like it for you to get reinfected or like for you to have worse symptoms. It protects you against that, right?
If you let me finish. So B cell immunity, okay, is what prevents you from being reinfected. Okay, that was shown to be robust 1 year after. Okay, T cell immunity is for life. Okay.
Yeah,
So
and that's what
T-cell
vaccines
immunity
give
is
you.
for life. No, the vaccines do not give you T-cell immunity. The vaccines
One of them does,
produce
yes. Not the mRNA
the
ones, I don't think, but the.
vaccines. Okay, well that's all well and good.
Okay, we're just gonna avoid that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're if okay, well, do you want to talk about the one vaccine that gives you T-cell immunity?
Well, it's
Which
a
one is
lot of
it?
people don't
MME?
recommend it. Yeah, probably, but
Oh, why wouldn't they recommend it if it gives you T-cell immunity? Why?
well, no, it's the
And
J&J ones. People don't like. A lot of people don't like the J&J ones. I'm just saying that there are
why
vaccines
not?
out there that give you T-cell
Why not?
immunity
Why not? Why don't people like the J&J vaccine?
because of like potential for blood clots in younger. They advise it for like different age groups. So for younger people, they typically don't advise it to you because of a high risk of blood clots. So they don't.
Okay, but
Older
do
populations,
you
older population.
understand? Do you understand that in many platforms that makes you a vaccine
No,
skeptic
it doesn't
and
at all.
anti-vax?
I don't know why
Yes,
you're
it
on
does.
this point. This
Yes,
has nothing to do with our discussion. You're just like
it
crying
does.
at this point. But
It does.
that's
Okay,
great.
so
I
they
don't give
don't
a fuck.
recommend
We're
the
talking
J&J
here.
vaccine. They don't. Do you not want to allow for people to make informed decisions? Do you
That
deny the fact
being a
that
J
calling
okay,
people
what I just said about
hold on,
J&J,
hold
no one will ban you off
on.
any platforms, and you can make an informed decision on if you want that if you're a younger age category. Doctors in the UK and stuff like that don't recommend it for people that are aged like 12 to 35, but anyone above that, they recommend the J&J one because it
In
has the.
early stages, they were having their licenses pulled for that very thing. If
Okay,
we're
you
gonna
have
have
zero fucking. I don't care about this. We're having a discussion here. This is totally different from
I
the topic
zero
at
what?
hand,
Am I
and
wrong? Am I
also at
wrong?
the same time, that's not even fucking true. But okay,
It is true.
it's not.
It's objectively true.
It's not true.
You had doctors losing their licenses for prescribing off-label drugs. Okay, you had doctors losing their licenses for questioning the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, which, by the way, our premier got. She got the Johnson and Johnson. Okay, so if I had to pick one, if I was gunned ahead, and if I had to pick one, it probably would have been the Johnson and Johnson myself because it's just one shot. But it's not irrelevant. None of this is irrelevant. It all ties together because it's your objective news sources that are the ones who would call people anti-vax. You had Eric Clapton being called for saying that the AstraZeneca made his goddamn hands go numb and he couldn't pick up a guitar. Now you have to understand something that if you're sitting there, well, you just question all the mainstream media because it's mainstream media. No, I question mainstream media because they are the ones who called these people anti-vaxxers. They are the ones who threw their credibility in the fucking toilet. So
Oh,
if you
also
want me to trust them again, it's going to take a while, and they need to. Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish. They need to come out and publicly admit and publicly apologize, as Tim Pool has done for getting things wrong. Publicly admit, publicly apologize to all of those that they called anti-vaxxers for questioning the Johnson and Johnson vaccine. That would be a fucking step in the right
okay.
direction.
Here's the issue.
That
They
would be a
question the
step
wait
in
wait.
the
They
right.
question the Johnson and Johnson vaccine because it like would change your DNA in your body and shit, not about like blood clot stuff.
No,
Yes.
they question.
Do you think that the
Don't
majority of
fucking
people, when
condescend.
people are saying that
Don't
like
condescend.
you just condescended me? What are you talking about?
I didn't do that to you. You wanna
Okay,
have a
keep going.
respectful
Yeah.
dialogue? Then we can have a respectful dialogue. If you start fucking making noises, like I'm not one of your fucking online gaming buddies, okay?
Yeah,
You want
I
to have a
understand that.
respectful dialogue, we can.
Okay.
I am the one who agreed to
Just
this
an FYI, I've let you talk
conversation.
for like the past 10 minutes uninterrupted. But
No, I don't care about whether or not one person lets the other talk because I let you talk quite a bit as well. Okay, it's not
we
about
could
that.
time the conversation now and we could see who's talking more. But yeah, go ahead.
About that. Okay. I never started making noises. I never started basically making you sound like a petulant child or
Okay,
a fucking
we're really
retard.
off. Just keep going, please.
No.
Like we started this conversation about vaccine like numbers,
I'm
and now we're
looking
on
for-
to like vaccine deniers and how they're how
No.
they should
Listen,
be apologized
we
to or
already
something.
said that. No, they don't need to apologize to me. Stop misrepresenting.
No, you said that people should apologize to vaccine deniers. Did you not just say that? Not to you.
Yes,
I don't care.
I think major mainstream news sources should come out
Yeah.
and apologize to those that were questioning the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Then you started coming in and saying, well, they said that it changed DNA. No, they fucking didn't.
Yeah, a
They
lot of
said that
COVID
the
deniers. Okay,
mRNA,
this is so. I would have to find like every single story about COVID deniers and what they say, but it's. You could look at people who still think that that the mRNA vaccine is a gene therapy. Okay,
it is.
it's okay.
Yes, it is.
So you can't tell me that people don't say that vaccines change your DNA and your genes, but then you say that mRNA is a gene therapy. Do you know what gene therapy is? It's changing your DNA.
The board of Pfizer came out and he said if we had asked the population to take part in gene therapy, they never, earlier than 2020, they never would have done it. It does alter your genes. They also
it doesn't
said that
alter
it
your
didn't
genes. It shows your body a protein so that they can recognize it for the future. It's called spike
and
proteins.
then your body produces said protein, which it never.
That's not
would
gene
have.
therapy, though. That's how our immune system works. Is it produces when an infection enters your body. That's how natural immunity works. You get the COVID first. This is how. Wait, I'm explaining to you how natural immunity works because it's the same thing as how mRNA works, but with more steps because you have to go through the infection. So you get COVID, your body recognizes all of the things that COVID is about, and then later when you get COVID again, it goes, hey, those are the same things we saw before. We've never seen them before that, but now we've seen them, and now we can defend against them. With mRNA, it's taking one of those things from COVID, the spike protein, and going, hey, body, this is the most vital part of COVID. This is what attaches COVID to your cell. If you just learn this part, you can break off COVID more easily because now you know, hey, attack these spike proteins, and then you won't have to deal with COVID attaching to your body. That's why when you get a vaccine, when you get vaccinated, you can still test positive because COVID's still in your system, but it has a harder time infecting you and causing like symptoms.
Yeah, so there's a few things there. So yes, you're right. When you get the vaccine, you can test positive. Okay, fair enough. And therefore, they say, well, the COVID vaccine prevents transmission.
Well, you're showing less symptoms,
You can make the argument that with a mass vaccination campaign, everyone already had it because they could test positive. Okay, so everyone already was sick. So therefore, you say, well, it prevents transmission. Well, yeah, it prevents transmission. Of course, everybody got vaccinated and everybody had the sickness. Therefore, well, they weren't passing it to each other. No, because everybody had it. Of course, they're not passing it. You don't get one guy. No, hold on. I let you finish. You don't get one guy with the flu and another guy with the flu passing each other the flu. It happens in an infinitesimally small amount of cases, but generally speaking, two people with the fucking flu being around each other are not going to give each other the flu.
Yeah, okay?
but this is what I'm
mRNA
saying.
Vaccine doesn't give you COVID.
mRNA vaccine teaches your body to produce the spike. That's what it does.
Well, it teaches you to attack the spike.
It teaches your body to create the spike, therefore generating an immune response. What they said is that it was a controlled burn, essentially, for lack of a better phrase. That it was going to be a controlled burn, and the shot is going to stay in your deltoid, and it's not going to move. That is false.
Who the hell has ever said that? That's not how any vaccine works. It goes into your system so that your body can learn it. It doesn't stay in your deltoid. What the fuck?
Seriously?
Yeah, if you could show me some like major news outlets or whatever saying that the vaccine will only stay in your deltoid and only teach the deltoid part of your body to protect against vaccines.
It's not that it. No. Don't misrepresent me.
That's what you just
said. I didn't say that.
That it would stay in your deltoid.
No. I said that the vaccine stays in your deltoid, does not go to other tissues. Then your body mounts an immune response, attacks the virus in your deltoid.
No, but there's no virus. That's not how mRNA works. That's how J&J works.
I know that's not how mRNA works.
I'm talking about mRNA then. How did we get here?
Skeptical about it. The mRNA, what it does is it trains your genes it trains your body to produce the spike protein. Therefore, your body mounts an immune response to the spike protein that your body is creating. Now, what they're not saying and what they're not acknowledging is that
mRNA vaccines don't cause an immune response. Or sorry, they do in the sense of like that little thing, but they're not like. It sounds like you think that you have to get COVID to get. Is that what you're saying? I'm just trying to make it clear that do you think that vaccines give you COVID, and that's why you test positive?
the vaccines train your body to produce the spike protein. Therefore, if you give somebody a PCR test, and if you tell the PCR test, can you find spike, and you magnify it, well, then it's going to find spike. Therefore,
But that's not how you test positive for COVID.
Positive, yeah.
No, that's not how it works at all.
You
When I say that you
for
can test positive with
you
mRNA,
test-
it means that you can get the virus from somebody else, and then it's in your throat or whatever. And then you can get your
Oh, but I
PCR test
thought
and
you
stuff like
couldn't.
that, or your nose
But I
swabs.
thought you couldn't.
What?
But I thought you couldn't.
No, what? You
But I
can't.
thought you couldn't.
Okay, now we're on a different subject here. No one has ever said that you can't
No,
test
we're not.
positive with vaccines. And if
But
they have, then
if
it's a
you
we've already been over
can't-
this. It's a massive mistake
but
if they did it.
Okay, then
and they
why didn't
corrected
they
the
come
mistake.
out and say it?
They did.
Okay, oh, did they?
Fauci, I think
Really?
what you showed me that like Biden said it, and then somebody corrected him like 2 days later. Like, oh no, you can still get
Fauci,
you can still get COVID
Biden,
from the when you're
Fauci,
vaccinated,
Rochelle,
but it won't be
no.
as powerful.
Hold on. Rochelle Walensky from the CDC. You had the head of fucking Pfizer saying that you will not get infected. It stops transmission in its tracks. You have MSNBC coming out and saying that
Just so you know,
your
this is all
body
happening
and
with the
it
first
stops.
variant, right? This is not. I'm just. You know that other variants came out and changed these numbers. You know that stories change, right?
It doesn't. Well, of course the stories change. We're all well aware.
So when other
aware that
variables come into the
story is
picture, your vaccines are going to change how they interact with the world, right? The current
Yes,
COVID-19 vaccine completely annihilates the first strain of COVID, what it was built off of. But we're on a totally different strain now.
First of all, you have the vaccine. The vaccine still contains the wild virus, or what the
No, it doesn't.
computer
It just
model
contains
of it.
like the spike protein.
It's genetically it's modeled.
It's
What's the word I'm looking for? The genetic makeup is 50% wild virus or alpha virus, and 50% the bivalent boosters still have 50% of a variant that is extinct in them. Why? Why does it have a variant that is for all intents and purposes extinct? It doesn't make any sense.
They have to make a lot of. It would cost a lot of money to make a brand new one now. That's why. And the current vaccines that we use. Wait, and the vaccines that we're currently using, the boosts that we're currently using, are shown to be effective.
They are shown to be effective is a very subjective statement.
No, it's not suggestive at all. Effective as in they reduce hospitalizations as their intended purpose. Yes. And they bring back your immunity, or like your non-hospitalization immunity, whatever you want to call it, back up to like the 90%, 85% that it was when you got your first 2 shots.
They're showing that it's only about 30% effective in adolescents.
Yeah, in adolescents who barely have to deal with it anyways.
So
and I don't even know where you got that from, but I could go look at that.
Why could you ever get behind? How could you ever get behind vaccinations for teenagers, when out of your own mouth you say that they barely have to deal with it anyways? You understand something?
I'm just gonna look up your number first. Hold on, just give me a second. Give me a second.
No, I will let you finish. I promise. I want to say something real quick. You seem to think that I'm pushing so hard against the vaccines because I hate vaccines. Now, first of all, there's a couple of things about that, and I do promise I'll let you finish after this thread. So, first of all, when my mom asked if I should get the measles vaccine, they said absolutely not. My mom said, why? Because he's already had measles. And this is how it works with most vaccines. Which is why
this is a different vaccine for a different thing. Just an FYI.
Hold on.
But
yeah, I understand.
Measles is not COVID.
I understand that, but first of all, it has the same infection rate as COVID does, by the way.
Yeah, but everyone else on the planet is vaccinated against it.
Well, I mean, everyone else is a little bit. Yeah. So either way, but it was never mandated, and they say, well, you have to get your. But then why the push?
Why the push? Measles vaccines are mandated in public schools,
but they aren't. They aren't in all public schools. They are in some, and they aren't in others. Okay.
Can you show me which ones they're not mandated in?
say Alberta. I don't believe they're not mandated in Alberta schools. So, but anyways, that's beside the point.
Okay,
I
sure.
want to make sure that you're aware of my stance. You seem to think that I just hate vaccines. When I became radicalized, we'll say, because that's what a lot of people seem to think I am, is when you started jabbing fucking kids. Okay?
Even though we jab kids about a bunch of other stuff, and 30% is still better than zero. Just an FYI.
Now, are you willing to accept that there is risk from vaccination?
There doesn't seem to be much there. In what kind of sense, actually? Let me ask that first. In what sense is there risk?
Well, in the Kaiser study, they showed as much as 1 in 1,600 had myocarditis in the 8 to 16 age group, and the 12 to 19 age group, they had incidents as much as 1 in 1,600. Okay, those are not small numbers. Okay, when we were talking about, I was slightly mistaken about the swine flu. I said that they pulled it after 50 deaths. That's not true. What it is true is that they did a study into it based on VAERS data, by the way. They did a study into it that showed that it had a 1 in 100,000 increase in Guillain-Barré syndrome. 1 in 100, and that's objective truth. You can go look it up if you want. Objective truth. And they pulled the swine flu vaccine in the late 70s. Okay, based on those numbers, because of a 1 in 100,000. Okay, even by the most conservative metrics of myocarditis, it's 1 in 10,000. Even by the most conservative.
Wait. So what was the first thing that they pulled it for? What was the first?
They pulled the swine flu vaccine because of a 1 in 100,000 chance of Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Okay, and what is Guillain-Barré syndrome?
Face goes numb. That's what Justin Bieber got.
Yeah.
Guillain-Barré syndrome. So where half your face goes numb and sometimes half your body, but usually it's
okay. And what is myocarditis?
It's inflammation of the heart muscle. So
which goes away on its own after like a while.
Pardon me.
Myocarditis in adolescence just kind of goes away. Yeah.
Does it?
It's a mild case. Yeah, a mild case of myocarditis just kind of go away. You just need minimal treatment and rest. Versus something that paralyzes half your body. I think there's a difference.
Guillain-Barré syndrome goes away on its own. So,
sorry, you're breaking up a lot. Say that again.
I said Guillain-Barré syndrome goes away on its own as well.
Yeah, I know, but it's a lot more intrusive to the body and hurts you more in a sense than myocarditis.
You don't get to go. Yeah, I know. It's not more serious. Okay, here's
how is paralyzing half your body up to half your body not more serious than your heart being a little bit bigger and you just need a little bit of rest.
Okay, I'm really glad because now I see where our disconnect is happening. Now,
this has nothing to do with we can get into like my opinion on like vaccine stuff after this, but like this is a weird disconnect on like how
it's not a weird disconnect because what we're trying to do is you're trying to prove that the vaccine is a success based on the lowering of hospitalizations and deaths. Yes, that's your position.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Now let me educate you, good sir, that myocarditis is never mild. Okay. Myocarditis is an inflammation of the heart muscle. The pericarditis is an inflammation of the casing around the heart. Okay? So this coming to you from a construction worker who is, by your own fucking words, pretty stupid. All right? So now, well, do you deny it?
No, I don't deny it. Just funny you bring it up.
There you go. Oh no, well, because if we're going to condescend each other, you saying that this is mild is pretty, I'm going to condescend you. Because the heart muscle does not repair itself. The incidences of myocarditis have led to an up to 50% fatality rate in some cases when it's serious enough. Now you say mild. Well, define mild because the heart muscle does not repair itself. Look it up. You're Mr. Science. Look it up. The heart muscle does not repair itself. Okay? So that's my issue. And I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. You seem to think that I just want people to die. Okay, and now that might be unfair on my part, but that's given our interactions. because you say that give me your COVID conspiracy
The
theory.
damaged muscle
Well,
cells may heal over
objectively,
time, or they may be cell death followed by scar
is
formation. If this process is extensive and a large portion of the heart is involved, the heart ability to pump blood is impaired. But that's not the case in mild cases. That's why they're called mild cases. They'll just repair over time.
they don't repair over
It just
time.
says right
And
here
the
they
thing
do.
is, yeah, but the thing
If it
is,
doesn't,
no,
then it's
they
not called a mild
dissipate.
case
No,
anymore.
they dissipate over time. Okay, they dissipate over
But
time. But
they repair.
we
It says right
need,
here that they
but
repair themselves.
yeah, no, listen. Okay, well, fair enough. That's what that article says. Okay,
Okay, yeah.
but well, I'm not looking at the article. I'm not going to call you a liar if you're reading from an article. Okay, I'm not going to call you a liar. I don't do that. Okay, but what I can tell you is that first of all, to see the total effects, we need to follow these people around. Are we doing that? Now you have
I guess
mainstream
not,
outlets.
but we're also not
No,
really.
hold on. You have mainstream outlets who refuse to even acknowledge
You do know
that
they have
there is
clinical
a
trials on
serious
this, right? Like,
there. Yeah, I know we're in clinical trials. We're in phase
yeah,
3.
in the clinical trial studying vaccine kids 12 to 17, a small number of adolescents and young adults experienced mild cases of myocarditis after getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Most got better on their own with a minimal treatment and rest. And in the clinical trials, more than 3,000 aged 5 to 11, there was no reports of myocarditis from the vaccine.
Yeah, but they have shown that in children under 12 years old, that instance is between 1 in 6,000 and 1 in 9,000. Do you deem those numbers acceptable in a child that's 5 years old? Given that,
Given that we're in the
that,
middle of a
and
pandemic,
I do,
yeah,
and
we
I
kind of have to.
listen.
There's
I just want
implicit
to
risk
no,
in like
hold
everything we
on.
do here.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds. I do want to apologize for coming out and saying Mr. Science. That was uncalled for.
I don't
But
care.
do you deny that? That so the thing is, I'm comparing this to the studies that follow the unvaccinated. That in and fair enough that you pointed out that there were errors in the 1 in 200,000 study. That's fair enough. In the Israel study, okay, I acknowledge that, and I found another study that said that they acknowledged the errors committed in the 1 in 200,000 study from Israel. Okay, they addressed that. They addressed multiple different studies in that. Your only critique of that study, you didn't critique the results. You critiqued the fact that it didn't include vaccinated patients.
Well, that's
However,
like an important part. I also critiqued the study, but I don't think we ever got to that point. But
no, you didn't critique that particular study. You just said you dismissed it because it didn't include vaccinated patients.
no,
Okay,
I don't think
but
our
you did.
conversation went that far. It's also a conversation over Twitter. I would have
No,
I would
I
have
know.
disagreed with
But you
the
did.
findings of the study if we got to that point. I'm just trying to. I was at that time trying to mention to you that like it's kind of important to do a comparative study to also include the thing that you're comparing it with.
Yeah, but this is the thing. What they were looking at, okay, is incidences of myocarditis.
Yes, but you were
Post
asking, you were looking for a
in
comparison, and you
hold
gave
on
me a single study on one individual thing.
a single study. No, that's right. There are plenty of studies.
I know, but
Well, at
you
least
were I
no,
was
no. Hold
asking
on.
you for a comparison
Hold on.
study, and you didn't
There
give me one.
should be
Is my problem.
there should be plenty of studies following around vaccinated patients. And the thing is, I just gave you a study where they rated incidences in myocarditis in adolescents in between 1 in 1,600 and 1 in 2,600, depending on the age group. It's very important. That's very, very damning because when compared with the study that followed around
I know, but
700,000 people.
wait, about that study about the myocarditis thing, you have to like, if you want to go with that again, you can't just throw me a study and say it's damning. Like, why is it damning, and why can't like what is the problem with a mild case of myocarditis, which goes away after a while, versus
Okay, well,
dealing with the pandemic.
So I'll give you the story of Aiden. Aiden was told that he couldn't even go for a walk for 4 months. Okay, 4 months. That yeah, well, rest and it goes away on
Wait,
its own.
what does this have to do with? Okay, and I can tell you stories of people
It does,
dying
no,
of
no,
COVID.
hold on,
What is this?
because I'm trying to give you how serious myocarditis is.
No, how
Okay?
it can be.
Because
You're giving me a story of how serious it can be when most, if not like a vast majority of kids don't show these symptoms of myocarditis after the COVID, and we have no verification of this story. This is just a story.
We have no verification of the story.
Well, you haven't provided me any.
Oh, I can send it to you if you want.
Yeah, sure.
So we have
But regardless
the
of that,
story.
I could
First of all,
I could start throwing you
Hold on.
COVID-19 stories of people dying of COVID-19
Let's
because
go.
not everyone around them was vaccinated or something like,
Yeah.
or they decided not to get the vaccine.
Yeah, let's just go back to our original point here.
Yeah.
So we have the Alberta provincial data on COVID. Okay. So this is COVID, end of day, July 4th, 2022. Okay. Now, in 3 doses, you have 50%. In 2 doses,
50%
you have
what?
20. This is the case outcomes, hospitalization.
Okay.
So you have 50% in the 3 doses, which is overrepresented. Okay. Because as we know, the 3 dose, well, it's slightly overrepresented because it's around 47 to 49% at this point. I believe in July 4th, 2022, I believe it was around 40%.
Wait, are we getting this from that like Alberta.ca? It was like a screen grab?
Yeah.
Because nothing here is 50%, it's 40%.
Yeah, well, here, July 4th, 2022, end of day.
July 4th. Can you send me that? Because I'm looking at a different. I'm just wondering if it's the same numbers from just different days.
Provincial data on the COVID dashboard. They have a link here. I can screenshot it for you if you like, but
or just tell me how to find it. Like, it's alberta.ca/what?
Yeah, alberta.ca/.
Because this one I'm looking at is from
alberta.ca/stats/COVID-19.
And then current hospitalizations you're talking about?
Yeah, it was current hospitalizations as of July, end of day July, July 4th, 2022.
July 4th, 2022.
And you look at vaccine outcomes. Now, are you aware?
I like from the same website. There's a huge article here about how effective vaccines are in the same from.
I'm sure there are.
No, it's in the. It's just funny that you're about to show me data for something that also says that vaccines are effective.
Of course, really, dude. Come on, like let's. Of course,
is that not interesting to you that there's a in the same data thing that you're showing me? It's also telling me that vaccines are effective.
It's telling you vaccines are effective. I'm looking at numbers. I don't care what they are.
But it's based off the numbers that are in its own study.
It's based on what numbers?
The study's inside of its own thing. A large body of evidence suggests that vaccines are safe against COVID-19.
Just like I'm supposed to take seriously the fact that the CEO of Pfizer told us to take his product.
No, and
okay,
I'm just telling you, you're giving me numbers from Alberta.ca.
I would like to look at the numbers.
And then on the same website, based off of, and like, there's an article, or like there's a huge section here about how effective COVID-19 vaccine is against it. From the same website you're giving me the data from.
I would like to look at the numbers, please. I'm not looking at the
I'm just telling you
article.
that, like,
I want to look at the numbers.
You're bringing a conclusion. I know, but your conclusion from the data that you're looking at is exactly the opposite to the same website that you're pulling the data from.
My conclusion looking at the numbers are that the vaccine is and always was a tool amongst many. Okay. That's the thing. I'm not arguing against vaccines. I am arguing against vaccines for kids. Personally, I think it's absolutely batshit crazy that you inject your kids with an experimental substance before phase 3 trials have culminated. I think that's insane, personally. But I'm not going to tell anybody what to do with their own kids. Okay? But I'm looking at the numbers. So as of July 4th, 2022, the numbers are...
Wait, sorry. If I go to the main page of Alberta... What the fuck is happening with this website? Every time I go back and forth, it just closes the whole thing. So there's like a huge... Like there's like a chart of things here, whatever. And there's like current hospitalizations. Is there another like data service that I can go to? Because this is just showing like today.
Okay, well, what are the numbers today?
Well, I don't know if we're looking at the same chart, but it's like hospital. Oh, it doesn't show the vaccine status of these people, but
No, it should.
total
Why doesn't it show
hospitalization.
the
I know, that's
vaccine
why I'm,
status?
I'm asking where the thing is at, because this one just says like
Mhm.
total hospitalizations, and then it just shows like an age group down to 80 years
Oh, the
old.
dashboard. Yeah, the dashboard, and it doesn't give you their vaccine status. Don't you find that odd?
What? I'm
Well,
This
I'm
is
just
your
asking.
website that you're linking.
No,
I'm trying to help. I'm trying to get you to help me find where you're looking at the data, because I know I'm not looking at
well,
what you're
that's the
looking at.
thing is that I have a well, that's the thing is that the Substacks that I follow have a really hard time with their fucking with their website as well. To be honest with you, there's a lot of digging that has to take place.
You're the one who linked me the Alberta.ca. This is your link.
Okay, well, hold on. I know that. That's what I'm saying. The fucking Substacks that I've been following that have aggregated the data have had a really hard fucking time doing so. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, I guess
Because they're playing with the numbers.
they're not playing with the numbers. The more important numbers
They
are the
are.
hospitalizations. We don't care about like what the vaccine does. If the hospitalization numbers are lower than they were before, that's the success standard. That's what we're basing all of our mandates and
No,
stuff
see,
on.
that's the thing. That's completely disingenuous
How? Oh, there it is.
because because you're not acknowledging that the hospitalizations may have gone down on their own, and you have no way of knowing that. You have no way of knowing whether or not the hospitalizations and deaths would have gone down on their own because they vaccinated the control group. All of the studies, every single one that they base their 94%, 92%, 95%, all of them, they vaccinated the control group. You can't do that in a proper study. You cannot vaccinate the control group. They are no longer a control group. Therefore, your numbers are moot. But that's besides the point.
Just
Look
an FYI,
at the
you're saying this
current.
while also showing me studies from before that don't have this same comparison. So it's strange to me that you're trying to discredit my side of things based on like them
I'm
not
not
having a proper
trying to discredit
control
your.
group, while none of your studies have good control groups either.
That's your side, then that's your side. I'm not trying to discredit that. What I'm trying to say is that you don't vaccinate the control group. So right there, your numbers are faulty. Okay, not yours.
Well,
Sorry,
hold on.
one's
I'm
numbers.
trying to see if there's anything out here,
One's
but
numbers are faulty. Okay. Now I want you to hold on. Let me see if I can find where it says. Okay. So it's
wait. So
very
wait, you're saying that none of the so it's like hold on. Let's read this quickly. Make sure I'm reading the right thing.
Hey, actually, this is really good. Uh, what I should know this one here still. This is by age group. Uh, so this is the thing. So based on your own metrics, right? Because what I'm looking at I'm looking at the evidence for vaccine efficacy, and they say, well, nowhere do they do an A to A comparison in the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. They just say that after a year, that they're showing that your chances of hospitalization due to reinfection are lower, but it never takes into account the unvaccinated in those numbers. Why not? And why is it so difficult for me? Why is it so difficult for me to find the vaccine status of all of these people when, let's be honest here, everybody's been so quick to point out vaccine status? Well, why is it so difficult for me in the Government of Alberta website to find the statistics based on vaccine status? Why is it just a general number?
What's right there actually?
Why is it?
It's right here.
Where?
Vaccinated data are up to date end of November 14th, 2022. It's literally underneath. It's in vaccinations. There's a whole tab on it.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. We have vaccination data. Okay. That's showing how many people have had it. Okay. That's not what I was asking.
Well, no, that is just what you asked, but you're also asking.
No, it isn't. I want to know. I want to know how many are currently making up hospitalizations and ICU. Now, first of all, you do understand that if you enter the hospital and if you die within 2 weeks of being vaccinated, let's say due to COVID, you do understand that that's considered an unvaccinated death, yeah?
Yeah, because the vaccine takes time to
Okay, fair enough. Then
to fully come into effect.
can we find out how many unvaccinated deaths were within 2 weeks of taking the shot?
You could try to look for that. That seems like really hard data to find, but
Why would it? I know it is.
because it's
Now
very
we're getting
unlikely that
somewhere.
scenario happens. That's why it's hard to find that data.
Somewhere. Oh man, we finally find some common ground.
That it's really
You're
hard to find
correct.
data. Yeah, I agree. That doesn't mean that
You're
there's some
correct.
conspiracy or something going on that like the
No, I
vaccines
didn't
don't
say-
work or something.
You're the one who used the word conspiracy. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, well, what's your point then? Just because data is hard to find.
What do you mean? What's my point?
Yeah, just data is hard to find because data is hard to find. So what?
Well, I think it would be pretty important to know that data, don't you? Don't you think that would help people be less hesitant of getting a vaccine if they say, well, look at these people were considered unvaccinated deaths, but look at how small of a number it is. Why aren't we able to find that information? Seems like it would be pretty easy to find.
The small number is like it being a small number is a result of it being rare, not of it. Like, what's your point of this?
No, I didn't say. But here's the thing. I didn't say it was a small number. I don't know the number. Nobody knows the number. Why don't we know the number?
We don't know the number of people who get vaccinated and then die within 2 weeks.
Correct.
Because of COVID. Yeah. Why would that number be important?
Are you listening to yourself?
I'm asking a question on why would it be important if somebody dies? Because in that 2 week period, effectively the vaccine isn't working, so it makes sense to categorize them as an unvaccinated death. Does it not?
Well, I would like to know that number because that may play into what would be so basically. You're saying that the VAERS numbers don't matter. You're saying that the Health Canada numbers, in terms of adverse,
the VAERS numbers.
Just hold on.
Wait, we go one at a time. We can go one at a time. The VAERS numbers.
No, we don't. The VAERS numbers I know because of self-reporting. Okay?
No. The VAERS numbers are. We can use the VAERS numbers to look into studies. Like we can build a study off of something from the VAERS report, but that study is what's important, not the VAERS numbers as a whole.
Aren't we? Why we're getting somewhere here? Why aren't we? If we had VAERS numbers that showed a 1 in 100,000 chance of Guillain-Barré syndrome be enough, because VAERS is what they used, okay? And you're right in the sense that you said, well, no, it's not the VAERS that caused them to pull it. It's the study done post VAERS, like from looking at the data from VAERS, they launched a study that caused them to pull it, and you're accurate. That is accurate. Where are the studies based on the VAERS data that we have seen that have spiked hundreds of
It's right
times?
here. It's myocarditis in kids is very unlikely and goes away after a while.
How do you know that?
Because of the study right here.
How do you know there are not lingering effects?
Because there's in clinical trials studying vaccinated kids 12 to 17, a small number of adolescents and young adults experience mild cases of myocarditis after getting the COVID-19 vaccine. And then what a mild case of myocarditis means is that you just rest and it goes away.
6 months later. 6 months, Matt. You're telling me that that's mild?
Yeah, that's what it's defined as, yeah.
And you don't have a problem with that?
I don't think so. Also, let's just see if we can define it as that. I'm just using your definition of it, but let's see what a mild case of myocarditis is.
Months.
When children develop myocarditis, symptoms may include breathing difficulties, chest pain, fainting, fever, rapid breathing, rapid want to see a doctor. Causes, complications.
Yeah, we don't need to go through. You're preaching to the choir. I already know.
No, I'm just wondering where you're getting the number of
one
6
of
months.
One of the people that I follow, because one of the people that I follow that you summarily dismissed is the most published cardiologist in his field in world history. That's the one who's sounding the alarms.
One guy versus the entire body of the rest of the world.
He's the most.
It doesn't matter if he's the most anything. He could be wrong. I'm gonna stick with the rest of the field. instead of one guy.
You're going to stick with the rest of the field as opposed to somebody who has dedicated their entire career. But it's not just him. You think it's just him.
This is
it's not
crazy. We've bounced so many different subjects. It's fucking insane.
It's not only the most published cardiologist. It's not just, it's one guy. No. Why is he the most published? Because he knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Wait, most published just means that he's posted the most amount of things.
How does one become
somebody can know the same published? If somebody posts if somebody has one paper in their whole life and somebody has 10 papers, who do you think has more knowledge on that subject?
Well, that depends.
Exactly, yeah. So saying somebody is the most published means nothing.
He's the most published and the most cited. The thing is, they use his publications.
Well, okay, yeah, because he has the most amount out of them out there. And if two people are looking at the same data,
why would that be? Because do you know?
I know. I'm just telling you. He could be 100% correct on everything else and 100% wrong on this because it's one guy.
By an objective, I don't care if it's just one guy.
You should care if it's one guy, because if one guy is wrong on this thing, then or if he's right on this thing, why is the rest of the body not agreeing with him when the rest of the body agreed with him on every other thing he posted?
All right.
That's how we get to an understanding of what is right and what is wrong. Is we look at somebody makes a post. This guy, okay, he makes a post. He sends it out to the rest of the scientific world, and then the rest of the scientific world looks at it and goes, "Wow, that's a really big fucking red flag. Let's start doing stuff about this." But instead, everyone's looked at his data from his post and gone, "I don't agree."
You're wrong when you say everyone. You're objectively wrong. There are hundreds of doctors. There was 118,000 people. Many of them doctors and health professionals that signed on to the Great Barrington Declaration, which was summarily dismissed. It was 118,000. You know what their biggest critique of it was? Well, we found that 2,000 of the signatures were fraudulent. 2,000 out of 118,000 told them to dismiss it outright. Okay? Completely dismiss it outright. And they didn't follow the Great Barrington Declaration, which they categorized, your mainstream media outlets, and you can look at it, they categorized as the position being to let her rip, were their exact words, which is not at all what the Great Barrington Declaration was about. Our own Corporal Redmond was the one who developed Alberta's plan, which they threw in the fucking garbage. And it was fine. And it was fine in dealing with the swine flu H1N1 epidemic. It was fine in dealing with SARS-1. It worked very well.
I can't answer you. You've jumped to so many topics.
Threw it out for this
we used to be on
one
thing.
No, I'm trying to establish a baseline. If you just think that I'm contrarian and I question everything just for the sake of questioning, and I don't trust the mainstream media because they're mainstream media. No, I don't trust the mainstream media because they took a declaration that was signed on by 116,000 people and said it was fraudulent. Well, 118,000 and said it was fraudulent because of 2,000 signatures, and they just threw it out and misrepresented it objectively by saying they just say let her rip, which is not what they said. You're wondering why I ask questions? You take the most published cardiologist in his field in world history and you say, well, it's just one guy. Well, it was just one guy that said, well, hey, you know what? I think washing your hands may lead to fewer infant deaths and fewer mothers' deaths in terms of childbirth. You know what they did to him? They threw him in a mental institution. They said he was nuts. He believes that little bugs live on your hands and invade the body. That was one guy. And they threw him in a mental institution, which is where he died. Okay, so understand that sometimes one person can make all the difference. By your own admission, well, the one person who's the most powerful man in the world influences every other government in the world. And you're saying that the most published cardiologist in history in his field, and I always put that moniker because precision matters, so he is to be summarily dismissed because everybody said he was full of shit. Understand something. I don't want you to agree with me. I want you to start asking questions, Matt. Everybody that I talk to, I don't want them to. Do you think I want to be right?
I don't know where we're going right now.
That's the most insulting thing.
Talking.
Is that people just think that I'm some right-wing nut job and I want to be. You think I fucking want to be right? You have no idea how much
Thanks
I
for
want
following
to
me,
be
by the
wrong.
way.
You have no idea. When I watch my closest friend need a fucking kidney transplant and dialysis 3 times a week, suddenly, a couple of months after getting her shot, when another one of my close friends
Oh,
has
now we're
had
on
to
to like
have
weird
3
vaccine
MRIs
skepticism.
done on his fucking heart and hasn't slept a full night in months after getting the
Because of
shot.
the vaccine.
When I have another close friend of mine who can't feel his hands
Oh yeah, he's just asking
and
questions.
can no longer operate a machine after getting the shot. Yes,
this is
it
random
becomes
anecdotes. I
personal.
don't understand.
But if you think I want to be correct, you have completely miscategorized me. If at the end of this conversation, all I want you to do is ask questions, and I'd like to pick it up further on, but right now I have to go. But I want to say to you, Matt, I
Can I ask one
really,
question before you go?
yeah, go ahead.
So you seem to have a problem with myocarditis with
I seem
kids.
to have a problem with jabbing kids. Yes.
I know, but
Full
because
stop.
of myocarditis predominantly. Correct?
Because, no, not only my
Okay.
arthritis.
Any whatever the hell random
That's
study.
the tip of the
But do you
iceberg.
care about like long COVID at all?
I do.
Okay.
Of
And
course
do you
I do.
think like long COVID seems to have a higher likelihood of happening in like young adults, and that's kind of like the point of the vaccines is the people who are vaccinated and are young adults, they don't get long COVID.
Show me. It's a very minor reduction. Thank you. To be accurate, it's a minor reduction. Okay.
It's still
So
a
long
reduction.
COVID.
That's still better than nothing. And then like rates of long COVID.
Instances of long COVID I'm interested in because it's the only one where the data is not corrupted, Matt.
Sorry, you were starting to cut out again. Can you repeat that?
Sorry. The only instances of long COVID that I'm interested in, Matt. Okay. The only instances of long COVID that I'm interested in are the ones that happened in 2020. And yes, they do exist. Okay. Some of them are still suffering. Yes, I want to. There is an FLCCC protocol that helps to eliminate the spike from the body. Okay. That's the protocol that I followed and that many people follow, and it's working for them. It takes time though. And I set my buddy on it who can't feel his hands and can no longer operate machines. He just started working out a couple of weeks back. Okay. That news nearly brought me to tears. This is somebody I consider a brother. Okay. So,
do you think
if
that's
you
possible
think
that he got like? Do you have any evidence that that happened because of the vaccine, or are you just like asking the question basically?
what, and that's what I was going to say. Okay. I want to see a study of how many long COVID sufferers are vaccinated versus unvaccinated. If you can produce that for me, then I'd be much more sympathetic to your position. But no one can, because when they talk about long COVID and the reduction in long COVID, they use May in the vaccinated population. They use May 2021 to around June 2021, March-ish to around June-ish is the stats that they use. Sorry, September-ish to measure the reduction in long COVID. That's not fair because the instances of long COVID pre-vaccination, first of all, it was a completely different virus by your own admission because of variants, and viruses overwhelmingly mutate to be more less deadly, more transmissible, less deadly. That's overwhelmingly the case. Okay, so it's a completely different virus by your own admission and by mine. Okay, it's a completely different virus. That's not a fair comparison. I want to know how many long COVID sufferers are vaccinated. I want to know that number today, but we can't find that
That's right
number,
here
Matt.
actually. Vaccine with breakthrough COVID cases, 32% of them get long COVID. No prior vaccination, 36%. So there's a small reduction.
4%.
Yeah, that's still a reduction.
But look, I understand that.
But at the same time, just an FYI, like the best way to reduce long COVID, it would be like a mandate to keep people inside in masks and whatnot to reduce like overall infection rates.
Hold on. Masks are complete bullshit and they're objectively bullshit.
That's not true.
So
okay.
It is true. The only mask that is shown to be in any way, shape, or form effective is, and you will always see this moniker every time.
N95 masks.
Hold on. Well fitted N95 mask.
Yeah, of
They
course those
use
would be the
that
most
term.
powerful, but like it's a
They
scaling down.
That's what they're basing their numbers on. That's what they're basing their
No, they've
reduction
also done
on.
smaller studies on like any other kind of mask, and any mask is
I
better than
can
no
show you,
mask.
and I can show you just as many studies that show that the harms outweigh the good. For instance, of the 1918 flu epidemic, the harms outweighed the good because they say,
People were
okay,
masking, and
yeah,
wait. The 1918 there was mask mandates during that, like the Spanish
I
flu.
understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. And they dissected lung tissue from the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic, and they found very high cases of bacterial pneumonia. Very high. Some people are saying it's caused by the mask. It doesn't matter what caused it. Okay. The relevant information is that many people who were categorized as dying from the Spanish flu died from bacterial pneumonia. Bacterial pneumonia is not given to you by the Spanish flu.
Yeah, but
so why did they die?
Wait. People who get pneumonia probably have a higher chance of getting a like bacterial infection there.
Bacterial pneumonia is not. No, you see, flu pneumonia, like COVID pneumonia, is real, but it's not a bacterial pneumonia. We've already been told that no, because that's why they say, well, give them antibiotics. No, antibiotics don't kill a virus.
No.
Okay?
No, we know. We're talking about the bacterial infection. When you get a virus, it might weaken your, like the Spanish flu. I'm not entirely sure how it exactly worked, but the Spanish flu could have like weakened your lungs a little bit, allowing for a bacterial infection to be more like.
But it's also been proven that basically, essentially, hyperventilating your own bacteria and not allowing it to escape the body. See, and you think I'm just anti-mask. I'm not. Masks make sense when you're sick. They make sense when you're sick. I mean, you should stay home, but if you have to go out, wear a mask, of course. Absolutely. I just showed up to my contractor who said, oh, I'm wearing a mask because I have the flu. No. I said, honestly, dude, you do you. That's always been my stance. I don't care how many masks you wear. That's fine. I said, yes, and it's responsible, and I appreciate it. Okay? So that's the thing. I want you to know how reasonable that many people, I'll just say in my tribe, even though it's bullshit, but you know what I mean. Many people in my tribe are very reasonable people. I want you to ask questions. Okay? That's all I want. And you're sitting there saying that, well, the vaccine reduces long COVID. Why? Okay, by 4%. Why is that not the headline? You're talking about it's okay to put a headline.
Because somebody getting myocarditis because somebody getting myocarditis is a really low thing, and then somebody getting from the vaccine is a very low thing. So you're basically saying that like there's no point in vaccinating kids because it doesn't reduce it doesn't reduce long COVID by that much, but and also on top of that, there's like a 0.01% chance that they get myocarditis from it. Even though there's a similar, even though using the Israel study that you showed me, right there, it showed that like you could also get myocarditis from COVID. And it's just it's like a small, not even a factor lower.
0.03. Okay, but reinfection, hospitalization due to reinfection. Do you want to know what that number is in the same age group? 0.0001.
Okay.
That's
so what's the chance? What's the chance of them getting hospitalized without any COVID vaccine?
Of hospitalization due to reinfection in that age group is 0.000.
Yes, but reinfection is going to be low even if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. I'm wondering if you're not vaccinated and you get COVID for the first time, how high is that number versus if you're vaccinated and if you're vaccinated and you get infected for the first time. That's the predominant thing that we're trying to curb is that
30%.
So you have a 30% chance.
30% for that age group.
Yeah, that's a pretty big number. It's a pretty big decrease, isn't it? Going from 30% chance to like next to none.
Yeah, but again, let's go back.
That's a huge number. That's of 1 million people.
Sure.
That's 300,000.
But let's go back to the study that shows that there are no instances in myocarditis in hundreds of thousands of people. 0 in unvaccinated population. Now we go to the vaccinated population in kids, and we're seeing as high as one in 1,638 and 1 in 2,600. Okay.
But that number for a 30% reduction in hospitalization chance for your first infection of COVID is like that's a big ass number versus like a very minute
But
number that you're
there's
talking about
no
here.
chances of myocarditis in that population based on the data.
There's no chance of
So
myocarditis, but you could go to the hospital for a million other reasons. You don't care about myocarditis at that point. Wait, what?
Pardon?
So
No,
if
I
you
always
get
care about
infected for the
myocarditis.
so based on what you said, if you get infected for the first time with a vaccine and without a vaccine, if you don't have a vaccine, you have a 30% higher chance of going to the hospital. Who the fuck cares about myocarditis after that point?
No.
For the
Oh,
unvaccinated.
no. You don't have a 30% higher chance. Oh, no.
Is
You
that
have a
not what you
30%
just said?
chance. You have a 30% higher chance of getting it if you're a child in that age group who is vaccinated. 30% higher.
I was talking about hospitalization.
So you're willing. No, hold on. And hold on, because we're talking about you're willing to risk a 1 in 1,600 chance or 1 in 2,600 chance. Let's just say a 1 in 2,000 chance to aggregate the data from adolescents. Okay. Based on the fact that they're 30% less likely to get a virus that statistically has no chance of giving them myocarditis. That's factual.
Yes, but without the vaccine,
has,
you have a higher chance of going to the hospital for COVID.
No, you don't. By how much?
A lot more than whatever the fuck the myocarditis is.
Listen, no, that's false.
That's not false.
Please, it is false. It is false. Okay, listen, it is false. Okay.
COVID-19 adolescents hospitalizations rates peaked at 2.1%.
Chances of going to the hospital in that
and then declined to
again,
6.
Again, I don't give a fuck what adults do. Adults can take fucking 19 doses for all I care. Okay, as long as you don't try to jab me with it, bring a gun. But what I'm saying is, if I'm talking about kids. When I started giving a shit, Matt, was when they started talking about jabbing kids. When I started giving a shit about transgender policies was when they started going after kids. Everything that I do, despite the fact that I have no kids, is when they started going after kids.
Ridiculous. He told me he had to go
That's
like 30 minutes ago.
I became quote unquote radicalized, because yes, I am fucking radical about this.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that they have a 30% higher chance of being infected, not going to the hospital. Okay.
Yeah, I don't
if
know
you want to look at hospitalization rate,
it does suck.
Okay, it's around 10 times higher.
Like I could talk over all this.
Chances of hospitalization. 10 times lower chance of hospitalization than it is. Like, you have a 10 times chance of getting myocarditis, albeit, okay, you want to call it mild, we can call it mild. You still have a 10 times chance of getting myocarditis than you do of being hospitalized in that age group. After 2 doses, it shoots to 61 times. 61 times.
Rare, no.
So that 30% rate that we're talking about, that's just a chance of infection. That's not hospitalization.
Here, and it looks like
and I'm going to leave it here.
So 2% before anyone was like mandated
to have this conversation again. I am, because I was going to say before you asked me that one last question. Okay.
Also,
I want to give you credit.
Okay.
I want to give you a lot of credit, because you're one of the only ones that won't just outright block me. When as soon as I disagree with somebody, boom, blocked. That's fucking nonsense. I want to give you credit. You're not stupid. I appreciate the fact, and I would like an apology for you starting to go, Meh. I would like an apology, but I'm not going to demand it from you. I'm not a fucking child, and I'm not made of glass. Take kicks to the head every fucking day. I'm not too worried about words. But I want to give you credit in the sense that you're not stupid. Okay? I personally believe you're misinformed. I believe myself to be correct. Okay? But you, based on what you've shown me, you know you're right. It's a very careful distinction. I believe I'm correct. You know you're right. At the end of our conversations, and like I said, I'm happy to have more. Okay? First of all, if you ever thought that I was going to be unhinged, I fucking hope that you can at least acknowledge that, like, okay, no, dude, you're not unhinged. I hope that you can acknowledge that.
Isn't he unhinged?
Okay? And I'm perfectly happy to have further of these conversations. And my wife has told me that I need to do more give and take, and I need to let people speak more. So I apologize if you feel that this has been more one-sided than not. Okay? And we're going to have this conversation again. I'm happy to have it, because I want to have all the data in front of me, and I want to come to a place where I know I'm right. But until I get to that place, I believe I'm correct. And there's very few things where I know I'm right. My position is always I believe I'm correct. But I want to give you kudos, man, because you have the courage and you have the courage of your convictions to sit down and have a conversation. I really appreciate that, Matt. I really do. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So until next time, again, I don't want you to be wrong. Fuck, dude, you have no idea how much I want you to be right. If you're right, the worst fucking thing that happens is a few fucking people who are quote unquote anti-vaxxers die. Okay. But if I'm right, man, if I'm correct, there's a big fucking problem, man. And like I said, I didn't give a shit when people, I was the first one on Facebook celebrating when people got their fucking vaccinations. Okay. But you have to understand that something is wrong when vaccinated people, as much as I would disagree with it, even if they had said, well, listen, if you're vaccinated, don't mask. It's silly. But they didn't.
The Pfizer vaccine,
vaccinated people had to mask too. We still had spikes when they brought in vaccine passports. I'm not. You want to say that they didn't bring it in Ontario? I believe you're incorrect. But I'm talking about Alberta now. And when they did bring in the vaccine passport system, we still had spikes, even though the fucking unvaccinated weren't going anywhere. Okay. I just want more people to ask more questions. That's my goal. I just want you to ask more questions. Don't fucking take what they give you at face value. I don't. I've seen real.
It's really funny that he's saying this while he takes everything at face value from like Tim
front
Pool.
Of my face. I'm seeing people get sick and die right in front of my face. And we're not even allowed to ask. We're not even allowed to suggest that. Well,
no, you're on some really. You should change your name to
proof that it was from the vaccination? No, I don't. Because nobody is allowed to ask the question. That's all I want people to do is ask questions. So I appreciate you sitting down. I appreciate your time. I really do. And I hope that we can do this again. Let's bring some more receipts. Let's challenge each other. Let's look at the numbers. Sound good?
Okay, sure. Sounds good.
And I'll try to be less combative on Twitter. I know sometimes.
Don't worry about that.
No. Sometimes I rally up because you're a contrarian point of view, but you have the balls to fucking engage with me. I'll give you that, man. I'll give you that. You do. So, virtual handshake. I appreciate your time, Matt.
Yes.
I don't think either one of us has changed each other's minds, but I think we got somewhere. I do.
Potentially, yeah. All right.
So, appreciate it. You have yourself a good day.
Yeah, you take care. Have fun.
All right, bye.
Holy fucking Christ, dude. I want to go back. I want to time how much I spoke. What the fuck? Okay. I have like a million. We went over so many fucking topics. That was fucking insane. Oh yeah, true. The Swifties things. Hold on. We got to go over this. This is fucking insanity. Well, Stoner, you're a Twitter dude. You're posting mega doomer shit in my chat, bro. Okay. Fuck me, dude. Everything he said, I would look it up in like 2 seconds. I could see that it's wrong, but anything I tell him, he was just going to tell me I'm wrong. Like, he's just, oh, I don't believe that. I don't believe that site. I don't believe that site. I don't believe that site. I have like 100 fucking, like, look at this is every tab I have open right now. And then, and just an FYI, the numbers he's talking about with the COVID stuff, he's just getting it from a Twitter, like from this. He's getting it from alberta.ca, this number, and it changes over time. But he's just getting the data, but he has no conclusion from it. He's just looking at the numbers and he goes, oh, that's weird. Doomers, like, when you say things like, none of this matters and masks are tyranny or whatever, like, that's super, like, doomer posting. Like, the whole world doesn't matter is a doomer. Anyways, doesn't matter. But yeah, like, half of his argument was based off, like, this one thing, which comes from alberta.ca. And in the alberta.ca website, where is it? In the alberta.ca website, it has a whole fucking thing right here about how effective vaccines are. Like, based on its own data. Yeah, true. But the problem is that no one knows how to. The reason why we even have Stoner, I agree with you. But that's the reason why we have mandates in the first place. It's because no one knows how to fucking take care of themselves. Because everyone's fucking stupid as fuck. Yeah, but sadly, Stoner, like there was a study, whatever the fuck, and like 70% of people or something said that they would put a mask on if the government told them to do it. If there was a mandate, like if a business told them to put a mask on, they would do it. And it's like, so like people only do stuff because like other people tell them what to do. Essentially, for all like the crazies on the internet saying like, you can't control us. Some people want to be controlled. A large proportion of people like want to just be kind of told like, oh, if this becomes like law, then I'll like do it. I don't really care. Like it's not a big deal to me. Whatever. If the government thinks it's right, then it's fine. But like, to be fair, that's like my doomer take on it. That's kind of me, arguing as like a steel man of the other side. I don't think that people are slaves to the system. I just think that people are like, they just kind of do what they're not here to worry about, what exactly is the most effective thing. We have systems in place. I'm a big institutionalist. I love our institutions, okay? We have a lot of institutions in place that we should trust because they do a lot of work to come out with like hopefully the most correct things. And at the time of COVID, when things were ramping up and we had no idea what the fuck was going on, so when things started, right, we had like the big things, like the big news flash or whatever, was like Fauci and stuff yet saying that you shouldn't wear masks because anything less than an N95, or they basically made a mistake saying that masks aren't effective. And the reason they did is to protect the N95 cache, where they knew they were going to run out of N95 masks. So they're like, okay, if we say this instead, then N95s won't run out and we won't get Omega fucked. It worked, but it was really dishonest, and they probably shouldn't do it again. And it turns out that some masks are still more effective than no masks, because having a mask on will catch the sneezing, will catch the coughing, will catch the droplets. And while if you have if I'm the most sick I've ever been with COVID and we're standing next to each other, there's still a decent chance you're gonna get COVID, but it's not like 100%, as if I was standing there fucking coughing in your face. Oh, because he doesn't believe anything that we've gone over. He doesn't believe any of it, and he's against. His primary concern is that we're jabbing kids now. Meanwhile, we've jabbed kids with a million other things, and you control like all of the lives. So he's just taking this weird like grandstand on like kids for like no fucking reason. Well, it's not no fucking reason. I shouldn't say that. Well, yeah, exactly. It's not mandatory. Well, it might. No, it's not mandatory. Yeah, you're right. It's just not mandatory. Yeah, true. Exactly. It's not mandated. It might be mandated in the future for public schools, but so far it's not. I agree with lockdowns as they were. If we were to do another lockdown now, I would probably disagree with it. But as they were implemented before, I agree with them. Yeah, there's a good. Well, if it becomes endemic, depending on how severe it is, it might become a mandated thing. To be fair, just an FYI, because if we let polio or measles like break out again, it would fucking wreck our shit. Yeah, an insanely strict month lockdown. While I agree that was probably the most effective thing, nobody there would be fucking riots in the street. Every fucking like every person like who I just talked to would be out there fucking screaming their heads off. Yeah, Rare, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one, but it's a totally different discussion. I'm just too flabbergasted. If you want, we can have a discussion about that in the future at some point. But I'm too flabbergasted with the discussion I just had. That was insane. I don't even know what the fuck. Like I have so like we can just go through stuff. So like there's this thing. So that from the Twitter thing that I showed you, whatever. Routers is like, oh, that's wrong, or like they're being a little fudgy with the numbers. Alberta's or whoever, like this post is a little fudgy with the numbers. It's not true. It's misleading. And he's like, I don't believe routers. Okay, or Reuters, whatever the fuck you want to pronounce it. I don't know why I can't pronounce it routers. Okay, cool. And then like, what did I have? Oh, the truth behind, like we talked about like empty hospital things, whatever. And we used our COVID cells, but it's not enough. Like the whole point is it's not enough. Yeah, but A, nobody lives in Sweden, and B, I think that's not like they had low deaths because like no one fucking lives there mostly, and they have like insane immigration policies. So they might just be like the rare exception, because at the same time, right? At the same time that's happening, you look at New Zealand, the fucking what the hell am I looking at? You look at New Zealand, the travel capital. I don't know what am I? The tourist like center of the world, and they completely lock down everything and have like 0 deaths. That's not the reason, Stoner. Stop it. Stop being weird. Sweden just doesn't have any immigration policy. Like the people who live in, no one comes in and out of Sweden. There's like nobody fucking lives there and nobody goes there. So it's hard for them to like keep. I know. It's just you're getting a little on the edge there. Okay, you're getting really close to the edge. I know what the joke was, but like in a place like Canada where we have like super high hardcore, like Toronto, everyone fucking flies to Toronto. The United States has New York. Everyone goes to New York. New Zealand is one of the biggest tourist destinations of all time. That's where you're going to see a fuck ton of COVID get in there. And New Zealand totally locked down everything. They fucking, nobody was allowed to fucking go near New Zealand basically. And they have like no deaths because of it. Well, anti-vax just maybe, well, that's not okay, but okay. Interesting. But yeah, like, I don't know. We just had this huge the Kaiser study that was referred to, by the way, for Mayo kids. It's the end of the story. The story has all the links. Thanks again for your time. Post the conversation. That was live. Everyone's here. Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends. No. I didn't say the country doesn't count. I'm just saying it might be a rare exception because Sweden is an exceptional country. Sweden doesn't have like all the things that Canada, the United States, and New Zealand have. Because like, if you want, we could cancel each other out. You could say New Zealand did something good, and then I could say New Zealand did good stuff, and then you could say Sweden did good things, and they could just cancel each other out. But they're totally different places that have totally different things. So while it might have worked for Sweden, my point is while it might have worked for Sweden, it wouldn't have worked for us, the United States, or New Zealand. Most people that you think are anti-vax are really just anti-COVID vax. I mean, I guess. Well, but when we're talking about COVID, like, I don't know. Anyways, this is a weird topic. You don't know that though. And you don't know. Wait. So then what's their point of bringing up Sweden? Okay, but there's also what? Hey, Rare, if you want to jump in, we can have a talk about this right now, if you want. Anti-COVID vax just listens to the science. I've never heard a single person that anti-COVID vax that didn't get other vaxes. What the fuck are you on, Stoner? Yeah, is my Discord link below that you can go to? While you figure that out, I'm just gonna pee really quickly. I'll be right back.